G'day Mega Bosses, AOS Coach here, and we are going to be talking about Orruk Warclans, specifically the Ironjawz. Specifically, we have a whole bunch of new stuff that's happened with Dawnbringers 2, not only giving us a Armies of Renown, but we've also got new warscrolls and new thoughts around the Generals Handbook 2023 with Emptorian locuses and all the good wizardy stuff. Now, I'm here with a man who needs no introduction. They call him Mr. Pig, East Coast finest himself. It is Scooter Walters from the Bottom Table Bullies. G'day and welcome back.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. To talk more pig. Absolutely.
It's as soon as I saw this book and I saw the amount of war scrolls that are in this book, I knew that I had to get you to revisit this because you have successfully done very well. In fact, I remember watching you in the top tables at LVO, and you've gone on and you've secured yourself a ticket to the final of the Warhammer Championships, and you are at the peak of competitiveness when it comes to orcs. And unlike a lot of these Dawnbringer books where it's like a minor hero or they've given us a Army of Renown composition, this is a fundamental change. We have new units, upgraded units, different ways to play it. And as an orc army that doesn't have a lot of Emptorian locuses in his current wizard, blizzard, rupturing, hoarfrosty meta, how does orcs go? So that's kind of the focus and the discussion for today. But for anyone who doesn't know who you are, we'll do a quick introduction, although plenty of folks should know who you are.
I'm Nicholas Walters from the East Coast. I've been playing AOS a year after it came out when they finally came up with points. A lot of you know my brother. I mean, he's the main reason I play. But now we have this whole club, and I've been around so many other really good clubs and really good players that it's like truly a family when you're away from home. I play literally League of Legends with other people who they're not my clubmate. I play games with them. We talk on Skype. Like, it's become a family. It's molded itself from being how old fantasy was, where it felt like we were all rivals against each other, to like, hey, I hope you do good. Hey, I hope you do good, but not as good as me. It's fun. It's become definitely unique, so playing a lot of tournaments is what I do. Some friendly play, but it's just been around for a little bit now.
No, I love it when I was talking to you. I'm like, man, are you ever going to join Tough Crowd, being East Coast based? And you're like, no, man, I'll never join Tough Crowd because I want to be the rival and I want to keep them in check. Yes. And I laughed my backside off, and it kind of shows the competitive, fun spirit that you bring to the table. And if anyone has ever seen your games, I remember watching the stream of, I can't remember, was it the last Warhammer, was it the championships last year, or it was something. I was watching one of your games and everyone was just laughing their backside off. You're having an incredible time. I think it might have been you versus Noah or whatever was going on. I think one thing I've learned from you, Scooter, is it's easy to have fun with Warhammer and be competitive. Like there's no trade-off. You don't have to be super serious and a jerk to win. There is absolutely a balance between both, and that's the spirit that we all should kind of encapsulate.
You mentioned Tough Crowd. That's kind of what happened in the past. In the old fantasy days, it was very contentious between us and a New York club, and it was just like, oh, this is miserable. So when I first met them, and they're all in their like jerseys with their sleeves cut off, and they're all like badass looking in black and red, I was like, who are these people? And then my first game was it's a Tough Crowd guy, and I'm like, there we go. And he was so much fun. And his teammates came by and checked on the game and would like not pick on him, but you're getting beat. And it just showed me like, oh wait, hold on, like everyone wants to win, but these guys are really freaking cool, man. So it kind of was like, I think Tough Crowd's legit. I want to be around them and I want to play with them. But it's like, hey, what can we do in Maryland to like compete against a club as big as theirs and with as many good players as they have? And it's just turned out really fun, and like you cheer for each other. Like in the finals of LVO with Noah, like I think 3 separate times we were like, oh, you won, no, you won, no, you won. And at each stage when we announced the other person won, the other group cheered for that person, was legitimately happy that they won. And then it was like, oh no, you won. And then they're cheering for me and yelling my name. And it was like, it was just, I don't know. I mean, you're right. Soft scores, some people have a hard time with them. I think they're essential in the game to make sure we don't have the 40K mindset of I have to win at all costs. You want to win, but not at all costs. It's not worth it.
There's a way to celebrate your opponent's victories, even dice rolls, but also there is a way to not gloat. Like it's a very fine balance. And for anyone who missed the LVO final, we will get into orcs. I swear. There was a contention right at the very end where Scooter appeared to have won because of a goblin wizard, and at the time all goblin wizards were 4 wounds. Some of them were 4 wounds. Sorry, some of them were 5, some of them were 4. And it was an assumption just after 10 rounds of Warhammer that this wizard was 5 wounds, which meant that you kept the objective, which meant that you won the game by a point. But then as the wrap up kind of happened, we realized that wizard had 4 wounds, which means it only counted as 1 on the objective. So then the momentum swung, and I don't want to harp on that, but it was like I got to see that live, to see everyone celebrating everyone and the commiserations on both sides, and it was genuine. And I think even from you can hear it in my voice, and how exciting it was to kind of see sportsmanship trump competitiveness. But let's actually get into the bacon. Let's talk about new orcs. And before we get into new orcs, and specifically we are going to be talking about Ironjawz, there will be a discussion very, very soon about the big war side of things. So we'll put a different perspective. But start at the top. Let's talk Generals Handbook 23. I mentioned Entorian Locusts, plenty of wizards, primal magic dice. Just generally, how are you feeling 4 months into this season with the Ironjawz?
So when it comes to the Locusts, we've never been able to compete in the magic realm, right? It's just been a thing. You just give it up. You're not going to compete. What I've noticed in not to go away from Ironjawz, there's 2 casting armies in the game that are this is their milk and honey. You have Zeech, who you're not stopping them. You might be able to pick 1 spell and roll all of your extra dice, and I'll stop that 1 spell, but you're not stopping them. And then you have Seraphon, who just good luck with that. You better get in there and kill their little characters as soon as possible, because they're going to beat you up. So when it comes to Locusts, I had a list, or I've played lists that have 4 dispels in it. And that's been able to hold my own against the other 80% of the armies, where I can kind of help stop magic and let's slow it down. And that seems to be what's been working for me. I personally love it. I love this addition to the handbook. I think it's cool having all these extra dice. It's allying in certain wizards is what's really tipped it over for me. It's this one's +1. And admittedly, that's a Caleb change. He goes, "Hey, have you ever thought about this?" I go, "What are you talking about?" That's awesome. We're going to do this. And it's been really cool. I've always felt in all war games and all strategy games that you should focus on the thing that you're good at, right? A lot of people I'll try to make it work. Why? I'm not allying a bunch of orc shooters. They don't do anything, right? I'm going to focus on combat. I'm going to go forward and I'm going to fight. And what I've learned over the years and years of playing it is my main thing isn't even combat. It's maneuvering. It's movement. It's where you go around the board. Do you charge? Do you hit and flee? I've gotten really good at that kind of stuff. Who do I tie up? Do I tie them up, or do I let them spread themselves out? But I do compete with magic now, because I know I'm going to lose when I play the magic, when I play against Zeech, and I know I'm going to lose when I play against the frogs. So it's okay, I'm not going to win in the magic. I have to fight in combat. But this version is good. The only thing Games Workshop messed up on is the Zeech, the Lords of Change adding or matching their dice and then being able to roll those extra dice. I'm really? You didn't change that? Okay.
They're going to keep selling Zeech and keeping your brother happy. I want to clarify something you just mentioned, though. You said you lose. Now, are you referring to the games that you lose, or are you referring to the magic battle where you're very unlikely to get off magical dominance and those critical spells that you want against those super powerful Seraphon, Zeech, even Lumineth?
So the game's based in phases, right? You got the hero phase, you got the movement phase, you got the shooting phase, you got combat. I lose in shooting. My opponent's always going to win. And in Magic, I'll get my little spells off here and there, but I lose in the Magic phase because they're going to get more spells off than me. Where I win and where I excel is in movement and in combat. That's my bread and butter. And if an army's beating me in movement and combat, we have an issue. Right? But that's what I'm good at. So I don't mean I lose a Zeech every time or lose a Seraphon every time. You try to stop that one spell, but they're going to get the other 8 spells off. So you're not winning in the Magic phase.
That's what I thought you meant, but I just wanted to clarify in case that we got the wrong message out there where people are like, "Oh, we just can't win against Zinch." Then if I come up against a tournament, I'll just auto concede and go to the bar. No, it's just like you're not getting spells off, or it's pretty rare. Like I remember a couple of weeks ago, I got a spell off against Khorne, and like I was so excited because 1, they failed Hexgorge's Skulls. 2, I got a spell off and got Magical Dominance. So like, it's the greatest win ever. I did win the game, but like that in itself was a moral victory for my little Gitz wizards. But Ironjawz, just like when I look over the meta, and so what I'm hearing is, you're in a good spirit, things are going well. Yeah, you can't compete at the highest level with Magic, but right now you're still in a good spot because you've got those critical tools. You've got movement, you've got charging and combat. And when you look over the meta percentages, Games Workshop's Meta Watch has you at that 48% kind of win rate. So you're around the fat middle. Wohammer has you around the same kind of area. And, a lot of 4-1s and 3-2s and a couple of 5-0s occasionally, probably yours. But it's not like you're completely down and out, but you're definitely not the big bads like Ossiarch Bone Reapers or Soul Black Gravelords have been for the last couple of months. And now Seraphon probably has risen to be one of the big bads right now.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a good thing, though. Like, I would imagine you'd want the majority of the armies played around that 48, 52% win rate. Otherwise, you have a glaring problem. And with this new addition they put out, the new point changes, they're clearly trying to fix that. They see Ossiarch and they see Soul Blight up. They're like, hey, let's clean this up a little bit, bring them down a little bit. And I'm like, I like it. I'll give Games Workshop that. Back in the past, you're waiting 2-3 years for a book change. Like, you're waiting. Like, please fix this. Now they're like, wait, that's bad. Fix that. I'm like, I like it.
Yeah, no, I do like the reactiveness. It much, anyone who's been through fantasy battles, like there'd be years of like a broken Wood Elf book, a broken Dark Elf book, or a High Elf book. Oh, elves! It just seems like elves are broken in general. But anyway, as a green skin, my goblins have fear against elves, so that's probably maybe why I overrepresent them. But let's talk this book. Let's talk this Dawnbringers book at a very high level, and we will go through the War Scrolls. We will go through the Armies of Renown and then compare it against the current rule set of Ironjawz. What was your first thoughts when you saw these updates? Are they good updates? Are they they're adding something interesting? Is it like not useful to you?
We're from 7 options to 15. Like you can't be mad about that. Right, like 7 options and 15. I saw the Ardboys, a 3-up armor save. I'm like, okay. I saw new brutes. I'm like, okay. I saw the big pigs and But like they put some stuff out there, but some things are just too expensive for the amount of damage they do. It's just like I don't see this. I don't see this. But they definitely gave us an anvil where in the past we never had that anvil, that thing that's going to walk up, sit in the objective, and it's going to be hard to move it. So Ardboys are one of those things I've been playing a lot with and been pretty successful with. The new brutes I think are interesting, but the amount of attacks they do, right off the bat, if I were to point at something, I go down 3 wounds, I go down an armor save. The points are 100 points, so it's like, okay, for 3. I do like that you can reinforce them, and you have 6, so the coherency you don't worry about. I thought that was a unique thing. The fact that they can run and charge, moving down 14 inches down the board with an auto 6 run, you definitely have some juice to get there. I think they missed the mark on the brutes, at least 1 or 2 of them, not letting them, let's say, outflank or scout or anything that lets them get in a different position. My thing, I said, because we knew this book was coming and people would say, hey, what do you want to see? And I just was honest. I was like, I don't need combat. Like Ogres, Ironjawz, they don't need combat. They need tricks. So they did give us one trick that I think is interesting, but it's a 380 point trick.
All
And
right.
I'm like,
Well, let's not ruin Christmas before
Yeah.
let's not tell the kids the presents. We'll get into the rules in a
Yeah.
second, but I do want to just talk one thing before we bring up the rules, because you brought up Ardboys, and I think as an Ironjawz player, the big difference between what you had and what you have now is Ardboys, where Ardboys used to be 80 points for 5 models. You'd get the couple of models with a shield that would give you a ward, but
Yep.
it was only a handful in every 5. Impacts of that, right? Because you now don't have those cheap bodies. You don't have that. I mean, I know Big Y used to really appreciate it, but how do you find the changes to?
Right now, when I think of my army, I think of the amount of hammers I have. Right, it's like, okay, I got the Maul Crusher, big hammer. I got 2 units of 6 pigs, big hammer. Brutes, surprisingly, I understand they're only movement 4. I've been insanely successful with getting those brutes into a position to be very useful. It's like waves of combat. Like, here comes my pigs, boom. Well, turn 2, here comes my brutes. And it's waves of just absolute devastating hammers. What happens now is with Ironjawz, I can hold back, grab some objectives, control more of the board, because it's going to be hard to shift 10, 20 Ardboys. It's going to be hard. I mean, one command point and I'm not moving. Like, okay, you can kill 6 of them. I'm not going to roll battle shock. I'll use a command dice instead, because I know what's coming. I'm just going to save my command dice. There's no reason to use it, right? Like, the cool thing is when you play the game, you think of like definites. Like, I know this big bad threat is going to come and hit my Ardboys. Mathematically, they're going to kill 8. I have to save this command dice, not for all-out defense, but to keep them there. And now I countercharge, right? Like, it's what's happening, right? You know what's coming. You're playing the game, right? So Ardboys give us the utility to even in Bloodtooth, like not even doing Iron Suns, even in Bloodtooth with my 2 units of pigs, if I want them, I just walk forward, set an objective, and I go, okay, well, this objective is mine for as long as I want it to be mine, right? I personally love the change, and people focus on the amount of damage that they can do. You can soup anything up and it will do damage. What's hard to do is have something that can take a hit and smile.
And that has probably been one of the glaring weaknesses of Ironjawz in the past, where you have all the hammers in the world. And for anyone who doesn't know the concept, hammers and anvil, basically at a very nutshell, your anvil can absorb damage and kind of hold it like an anvil. The hammer is the one that's going to deal the damage. And, you've had your Maw Crusher, you had your Maw-Grunters, you've had so many different options when it comes to dealing damage. But you've never really, and like people would never really reinforce Ardboys. Like sometimes you would, but usually they were screens, they were early objective scorers, they would move up the board, take the hit, and then your piggies and your Maw Crusher would come in for a second round, or maybe they protect your war chanters and things like that. But they've never really been there to absorb the damage, other than those warding shields that they had.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I've even tried them out in a couple of games. Some of the things people said is, oh, just reinforce them twice, get a spell off, and then they're good. It's like, well, now I'm investing even more points into something that hopefully I get a spell off to make them do what you think they can do. Or no, I'll just take picks. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, is it worth reinforcing? So, look, overall, at very high level, what I'm hearing from you so far is interesting changes. Maybe not completely gut my list changes to now I'm going to put in all the big Maw-Grunters. I'm going to put in all the new Ardboys. There's options, but there's going to be pros and cons, and we'll go through all of them right now, because there is a lot of them, and I think we could talk shop for days, right? We could talk so many cool things, but I actually want to get into the weeds of the rules. So, look, I imagine everyone has read these by now. This is not, Games Workshop actually released this as a free PDF, so it is available to everybody. You don't have to buy this book. If you want the Armies of Renown, you definitely can, and feel free to do so. But the War Scrolls are free, so you don't need to. So first off, there are 3 versions of the Maw-Grunta. So the Maw-Grunta is this new centerpiece piggy. One of the things that I really like about it is I always felt weird, and I'm not an Ironjawz player, so Scooter, you can tell me otherwise, but I always felt weird that I had this Maw Crusher, leading my army of piggies. And I
Right.
always wanted, why don't piggies have a leader? Why can't I get a piggy leader as opposed to a Maw Crusher? Because sometimes I don't have the points. Sometimes I just don't want that in a particular, there's been times where the Maw Crusher isn't that great. But now there actually is 3 different versions. You've got this Tuskboss version, and there's 2 other versions.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your thoughts on the Tuskboss on Maw-Grunta? It's 380 points. It's a leader and a behemoth. And it's not keyword locked to anyone, so you can obviously play it in Iron Suns, Bloodtooths, yada, yada, yada. Customize it to your heart's content.
This is the main model I've been playing besides Ardboys, and testing out and learning the rules and figuring out where it's most optimal and how to play it. The Carve the Path is a really cool feature if you can get it off, right? The problem is, to get it off, you have to roll a 5 or a 6, and you have to do it right then and there, right? When it works, it's amazing. So what I've been doing is just adding Tusk Helm to the thing, and the handful of times I'm able to charge out and go get something else, your Tusk Helmet originally, then you charge out and you Tusk Helm again. Like, it's really cool. Its damage output, obviously, with the shaman behind it, is amazing. The big downside of it is I feel like they're like the giants, where really good attacks, but if you drop those attacks, it is extremely noticeable that your big 380 point model is now doing no damage. So it's things like, okay, I'm going to use my, wound on 2s. I'm going to give it +1 to hit. So everything's 2s and 2s, which is awesome. And in Ironjawz, I can now pop the Wog, right? So at least it's Ren 2 on everything, Ren 4 on the big thing. And it's been great. I've seen it do both things. Like we talk about incarnates, where I've seen the incarnate that comes in and does 20 wounds. I've seen the incarnate that comes in and hits you twice, right? I've seen both. And I've seen this both, where it's like, oh, I'm going to come in and crush that. Oh, I just dropped both my Mighty Tusk attacks. Okay. Now the rest of them are, here's Ren 1. Here we go. It's just not as effective. I think the point cost, personally, is just a little bit too high. The rules, I think, are goodish. Losing 1 momentum every turn is brutal.
Can I pause you there, because we need to acknowledge the momentum. So something that is brand new that's been introduced to the Orruk Warclans. And by the way, folks, this is not locked into the Armies of Renown, so you can absolutely put them in. All of these war scrolls can be put into your Ironjawz or your Big War. So let's just acknowledge that up front. But if anyone has noticed the Seraphon, if you've seen those Agrodon, the new Dino Riders, they have a very similar rule. So there's this thing called unstoppable momentum. So I'll read it out, and you do need to know this if you're playing piggies, right? Because it's across all 3 versions of the Maw-Grunta. So this unit has a momentum score that affects the value represented by a asterisk. So right now you see the move asterisk, the Mighty Tusks has an asterisk, as well as the Kill Choppers has an asterisk. So asterisk is influenced there, right? At the start of the battle round, this unit has a momentum score of 1. Each time this unit finishes a run or a charge move, add D3 to the momentum score. Now, this unit's momentum score can never exceed 6, and at the end of each turn, you subtract 1 from the momentum score to a minimum of 1. So I'll pause there for a second. Scooter, what does this all mean as an Orc player?
This means you're locking yourself in. The placement of that comma is very interesting. So you got your guy. I'm going to be ballsy. I'm charging down the field. You roll your D6 for your run. You say you auto make it a 6. I'm going to make it a 6. So you move your 9 + 6 forward, and now you roll a D3. Oh, I didn't roll a 5 or a 6. My guy's out there by himself. He can't charge. You have to finish your run move. That's how I read the rule. It says you have to finish it. So you have to dedicate your thing before you know if it can run and charge. It tells me that the only way to successfully do unstoppable momentum and use this is to play it in the Renown, to where you don't degrade your momentum. So, all right, turn 1, I'm going to move sideways back and forth with my guys to get them juiced up and ready to go. That way, next turn, full sending, we're going with everything straight into my opponent. And I do think that's a really cool way to play. it's a really cool way to play because you can put them on the backboard edge and move around. And I know I'm not getting objectives turn 1 or maybe not as many. And all of a sudden your guys are a little juiced up for the next round they go in. I'd be curious to know if I'm right on that because, you know, everyone's messed up rules, but it says each time this unit finishes a run or charge move. So you have to dedicate that, what is it, 9-inch move plus a D6, so possibly 15. And then you get to see if you can charge after that.
Yeah, so what it means, folks, and this is where it becomes a risky play, is, okay, let's say it's turn 1, Scooter versus me. My Gargan, Scooter's Ironjawz. Turn 1, Scooter's going to move up, and he can make a normal move, and he gets no additional momentum. If he was to make a run roll, or a run, that's cool, whatever. He finishes the run roll, and he rolls at D3. Should he roll that 5 or a 6, getting an extra 3 points, that would then unlock him the ability to then charge. But anything less than that 5 or a 6, getting a 2, would be a momentum score of 3 or less, which means that he can't run and charge, which means you've either forfeited a chance to charge or you've put yourself at risk because you've moved further than you probably would have because you wanted to charge, and then your opponent can charge you, which then stops you from doing a few things that you might want to do, such as, so I think it's a gamble. It's a turn 1 gamble.
What I've been doing, I've been having some fun with this. You Mighty Destroyers it. I'm going to move at 9 in the hero phase. I'll move at 9 in the movement phase, or my movement phase. Now I'm going to charge, right? Because you're going to charge anyway. You charge off to the flank. I want to get some points. I want to knock out a minor character, a little unit that's going to cause me problems later. You charge that unit, you blow it up. If you roll a 5 or 6 there, you unlock it's carved the path. Yeah, it's been fun.
When you say Mighty Destroyers, though, are you saying where exactly are you using Mighty Destroyers?
So you use your Maw Crusher, right? Take a Maw Crusher, you Mighty Destroyers, your Tuskboss, you move them up 9. In the move phase, you move 9 so it can easily charge into something. You have it charge the flank, so you're not sending it down the middle because it's not going to be as juiced up as you need it to be. And I like using this model as not a distraction, but I'm going to kill your little thing you have off to the side. So do you want to come fight this, or do you want to come towards my army that's in front of you? Like, I've been using it as a little distraction because like 14 wounds, 3 up save, you have to dedicate something to kill it. It's not going to be easy to kill it. You got to say, all right, I'm sending my big piece to go kill it. Come on over this way. Yeah, I see the value in it. And that's what I mean. There's value in every war scroll they put out. There's a way to play every single war scroll. It's just early. We got to figure that out. This whole hoping to get a 5 or 6 on the run is not something I'd be willing to do in a tournament. In a friendly game, all day. All day. Let's have fun.
So I'm glad I clarified because we were talking a lot about running before. So what you're saying is you're using Mighty Destroyers to supplement your movement to reduce the distance between the charge. So you'd Mighty Destroyer move, then make a normal move, then you'd make your then you would charge, because then you're not relying. And that's my concern, is if you look at this and go, right, I'm going to run this model, hope to get that 5 or a 6, and then I can charge, you're probably going to be more disappointed. One in 3 statistically, you will actually get that to happen. So at almost 400 points, that's a big risk. There are some cool things in here, I think. You know, the fact that you can run and charge, as we mentioned. The carve the path is fascinating when you look at that rule, but you've really got to pick your battles and, as you said, get the momentum score up. So much more beneficial probably from turn 2 onwards, or if you're super lucky and roll that 5 or a 6 on the momentum score.
It's been fun because I've rolled a 1. Okay, well I'm only 2 momentum right now. Okay, but I've rolled that 5 or 6. Like, here we go. Like, let's do this, and then hopefully I roll a 3 so I can carve the path and go get something else. And I will. This is probably my favorite model they put out, and the one model I'm trying to figure out how to make it work, because our problem is a lot of people have screens and tons of screens, and it's like, how do I get past these skinks to get to the meat? Sometimes you're standing looking at, like, if I can kill these skinks and just fly over and go get the salon, go get the star banner, like, that's what you need this to do, And I do see the value.
And you could, and the cool thing as well is you could finest hour with this model if you've got a wizard, Misty Shield. Let's get this on like a 2-up save, or being able to reduce Ren by 1 or 2 because you've saved stack to the 9s. All that defense, obviously. There's a lot of things that you could probably do as a missile, as you've kind of put it. And to your point, the second part of the Carve the Path, which is fascinating, is when this unit charges in this manner, it can pass across enemy units with a wounds characteristic of 1 or 2. The problem is the first part where you charge into a unit with a wounds characteristic of 4 or less. Let's say, for example, we're charging into these skinks, as we've talked about. Seraphon is the big bad. I've got to roll under my momentum score. So if I land the charge, let's say it's turn 1 or turn 2, my momentum score could be 2 to 5, 6 if I'm really lucky. Roll that dice, get under that momentum score, and then I can move through that unit. So destruction never has any guarantees, but for me, it's about picking the right rule at the right time. And and the momentum score is so critical here if you want to do, otherwise you're going to get let down a lot.
Yeah. It's also like we talked about, like positioning and stuff. Like, okay, I'm gonna charge the flank of these kings, or the side of this king, so as far over as I can. Like, even if you roll under, right? You roll under something that has, like, say, Nurgling has fat on him and they're 3 wounds, so now I can't fly over them. Well, you can move around them. You can recharge the exact same unit, and because I'm using Tuskhelm, here comes Tuskhelm again. Like, there's lots of like interesting things like you can do with it. I agree with you. The whole degrading momentum, and I'm trying to find out if when they're talking about degrading momentum, is it my turn and your turn? So by the time I take my next turn, it goes down 2 pips. Is it player turn, or is it turn?
At the end of each turn. So it says end of each turn. So turn it is yours and mine.
That's kind of how I read it until someone tells me, no, it's just 1 turn for the game. So
no, so it would say, because it would say at the end of your turn if it was just 1. So
it says each turn.
It's saying each turn, so it means that it's going to degrade. So unless you are using the charging in your opponent's turn, or if you like Iron Suns, for example, this in Iron Suns, this would like help you keep your momentum up.
Really think so. I really like it in Iron Suns.
I've got a big problem though. I have a massive problem with this model, and you may agree or disagree.
I agree.
No, it's not the points. I mean, the points are questionable, but I'm not at that level yet where I'm like, I know how many points this is, but I have one big gripe.
Sure.
And that is it does not have the Mega Boss keyword. So for me, it stops you from unlocking those artifacts.
Yep.
And it stops you from getting things like Mega Bossy, Hulking Brute, and Mighty War Leader. So it does lock you out of that. And if I want to run a piggy army, the fact that it doesn't have Mega Boss, that hurts me a little bit. But does it impact you?
I agree with you on that. My big problem is the attack profile. If I was going to pick on something, the main attack's only having 2 attacks. It's not reliable enough. It's not, for me, reliable enough to say take out my Maw Crusher because I want to add in, say, a foot war boss, right? And I just need to support 2 people. It kind of locks me in still to where if I'm playing competitively, I still need my Maw Crusher.
Yeah.
It doesn't have enough tax free. I can't take, like you said, I can't take Destroyer. I can't increase the amount of damage it does. I can't reliably move into a horde of, say, 22 Blitzbarb Archers. And no, I'm going to kill those 22 Blitzbarb Archers. Right? That's my problem is the reliability of the amount of damage. But missing that keyword is very huge. Missing all those artifacts is very huge.
Yeah, and in the Armies of Renown, there is a command trait there, and there is artifacts. So we'll get to that shortly. But if you're not playing within the Armies of Renown, you've got the universal stuff. So to wrap up this particular war scroll, do we like it? Do we not like it? And
I'd say it's very mid. If I'm putting something on it, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying it's mid. I'm saying in an RTT, I would definitely take it and play to see if I could figure it out to take it to a GT. But I would not take this to a GT until I figured it out, is all I would say. It's not terrible, but it's my opinion, 40 points too expensive, at least. Like at least had a minimum, but it's a really cool model. So for like fun play when you're playing with your friends, yeah, you can take this and have some fun.
I like the 14 wounds. I like the 3-up armor save. Yeah. I like the carve the path. I like the ability. I like the head of the Stampede ability. So when this unit makes a charge move, you can re-roll charges for all Maw-Gruntas. So should you run more than one Maw-Grunta, and as I said, there are 2 other variants, that's a really cool ability. But it is competing against the Maw Crusher. So I guess the question is, how many points are in your army? What do you want to run with it? And does it do what it needs to do in your army? Right now, I'm probably more leaning on a Mega Boss variant, but it's not trash. I think it's just a couple of minor tweaks. It might be points. It might be the Mega Boss keyword. Or you just accept that it's an independent solo piece and you build other stuff around it or without it.
Yep, more utility. And like we said, against those certain armies, like, oh, it's a screen buster if I can get it off.
Yeah. Oh, look, Finest Hour at 2-up save, go straight through, carve through that line. This is a real troubling piece. Bravery 8, so it means heroic recovery is a lot easier as well. There's a lot to like about this War Scroll, don't get me wrong. And if you run it, it can do well, but it doesn't synergize with things as much as maybe you'd like it to.
Yeah.
The second variant here, sorry, Scooter, were you going to say?
No, I was like, not yet, is all I'm saying. Because I feel like a lot of it, you're figuring it out, right? Like, I don't want to be too judgy. I think it's mid, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Folks, if you found a way that, this is really working for you, let me know. For me, it's just the fact that it's got no Mega Boss keywords, so I don't have any command traits, artifacts that I can tap into. Like, imagine giving this the Destroyer artifact. Or giving it even the Armor of Gork, as you mentioned, Finest Hour, 6-up ward. Like, there's so many cool things you could possibly do.
Given the thing that everything hits on 3 +1 to hit, always sounds awesome.
Yeah, if you could get the Mega Boss keyword, I think there's a completely different conversation. I think it's a very different conversation. But the second one is the Maw-Grunta with the Hakkin Krew. So this is a slight variant. So you'll see a lot of commonality between the 3 versions of the Maw-Grunta. So this one is purely a behemoth, so which is neat. It has similar attack characteristic. Its save is not as good. It's a 4-up save. What else? Its bravery is slightly lower. Yep, its bravery is slightly lower. It does still have carve a path. It still has the unstoppable momentum. It doesn't have some of the rules, like I mentioned, the run and charge piece. But is this a better use of your points if you want to include a Maw-Grunta?
I can see it being a better use in terms of the utility. Like, let me save the points, put this on the flank, have it charge the flank, have it cause a problem. Like you said, though, being a 4-up, I mean, that's 16% more damage you're taking. Like, so it opens up your opponents for being able to send something slightly weaker to deal with this thing on your flank. It's susceptible to shooting. That -1 save makes it a little bit easier for a lot of things to kill. Its attack profile going down a little bit means it even does less damage than the other one did. But if you're looking for that thing to carve a path and you're trying to save points and jam something in, I can see you playing this and trying it. But now there's no artifacts you're putting on it. It's not a hero. It can't give itself command abilities. Oh no, it's a hero. It can give itself command abilities.
Yeah, it's a hero. It is a hero. It's not a leader slot.
It's not the leader yet.
But it is a hero keyword, which is interesting. So I will also mention, I just want to quickly look at the rules. It is single, so you can't reinforce this particular one. So it is a solo operator.
It's all by its lonesome, But I mean, it's the same thing though. Yeah, in my opinion. Here comes this 270 point model down the field. You drop 1 or 2 of your significant attacks, and you're like, okay, take 8 damage. And I listen to some people that do like the math on it, but they don't add all the stuff you can add to it that you're playing the game. This is my tool going forward. I'm giving it +1 to hit with, damage rain. This is my thing. I'm going to give the war chainer buff to it. Like, you're playing the game. You know what you're going to do. You know, so you can increase its damage. You can definitely soup it up. You can make it good. You know, same thing. Best day ever, like, or finest hour. Sorry, we call it best day ever. But
everyone does. Like I've started calling it birthday. It's like it's birthday. So happy birthday, Maw-Grunta. It's funny because I'm looking over the Warclans, and like outside of Iron Suns, like Bloodtooth does nothing for them.
Nope.
The Choppers does nothing for them,
Nope.
and I'm like, okay, well, how do we make this work? And again, I like this probably more than the other version. Like 270 is a slot that I can fill. It's not taking up a leader slot, which can be pro or a con. It could be a great piece to put into a battalion because it does have 14 wounds, but it's a behemoth, so it'll sneak into some of those battalions that have like monster or behemoth or artillery. Sweet. I do like the rules. I do like Carve the Warpath. I do like Unstoppable Momentum. Yes. I do like Headlong Charge. I think this is probably more appropriate to what I'd be looking for over the hero. Just if I value what we've talked about. And currently, I probably do.
Yeah. I mean, you lose 2 attacks and 1 armor save for, what, almost 100 points? Like, okay, 2 attacks and 1 armor save to throw something, throw something in. If you get lucky, get that Carve the Path, because this will kill, a Lord of Change. This will kill that piece they're trying to protect. It'll kill a slime, so it will do its job, I do like it at 270.
As you said, Mighty Destroy is it as well. It can do some things. I think, the Mighty Tusk is really like what can absolutely slap. And I don't have the damage profile up on the screen, but when you look at the momentum score, let's say, for example, of if it's on momentum score of 2 to 3, the what's it called? The Mighty Tusks, a D3 plus 1. If it's on a 4 or a 5, it's D3 plus 2. A 6 is D3 plus 3. So that remember, that can be powerful.
You got your war chainers there. Now all of a sudden it's D3 plus 2. It's just everything in my everything can do so much damage, and that's the cool thing. It's a lot of damage you can do. I just worry about dropping attacks. That's all.
So again, same question. Do we like this or do we not like this?
I like it better if your goal is to add something in there to physically beat down those screens. Because you're going to come in, you're going to impact hit those screens, you're going to do your stuff, you're going to fly over, and you're going to kill that little thing in the back, right? That's what I like about this. The things that hurt our army are little pieces that you need to kill because they have a spell or they have a this or they have a command thing. This allows you the chance to go in there and deal with that. And it's still the same thing. If you don't trust the run, all right, Mighty Destroys it forward, move it forward, charge, and hope you roll a 5 or 6 on the charge roll. And then you're in. And it's the same thing. Are you full sending? Are you standing back? Is this a 2-turn game? Is this game I'm playing right here? I don't have to go forward right now. You can really hopefully get that momentum score going. It's just with it going down every turn, even if you roll a 5 or a 6, by the time it's your turn again, you're back to 2.
Yeah. And hopefully when they reiterate this, or maybe they FAQ this and change it to be just your turn because maybe it's too hard to keep up the momentum, or maybe there'll be another Dawnbringers book or an updated war book that will give us ways to boost the momentum score. I think that's probably I like it, but I'm not going to rely on it, because I think if you rely and build a tactic around momentum, you're probably going to be disappointed because you're not going to be always getting D3 plus 3 attacks. You're not always going to be able to run and charge in turn 1. If it happens, it's great, but for most of the times, expect the worst and hope for the best.
You're nailing it. Can you rely on it? Is it a guarantee? And it's not, right? That's the problem. It's not a guarantee, but I still like it. I still think it's decent. It's the next war scroll I have a real problem with, but I still think it's decent.
All right, so I do like this war scroll. I think it's a better point cost and fits into my lists easier. I like that it's elite as well, so it can issue its own commands. I like it as an independent threat piece. I like it as either a flank piece or something I shoot up turn 1, and then my wave of piggies or Ardboys or brutes or however I build are like these other waves that are coming up the board, and maybe this has gotten in and pinned something that I was really worried about that I want to charge later. Or I think there's a lot of cool things this can do, and it's not perfect, but I definitely would consider the Maw-Grunta with Hakkin Krew if I was a list building Ironjaw folk.
Yep. Yep.
What are yours? Like it? Do you not like it?
Like mid, just like the first one. I find it very mid. It's because it's not going to replace. It's not going to replace a unit of 3 pigs or a unit of 6 pigs. It's not going to replace it.
And that right there, nobody right now has a 300-point gap in their army, and that's the trade-off. Mm-hmm. Is this worth it over more pigs? Is it worth it over brutes or Ardboys or a wizard or something in your army? What's the trade-off for 270? Like, what would you have to sacrifice to put this into your list?
My casting. So I had to take out my casters to put them in. Go a non-casting army, which I've been playing a lot with. Right, like let's go no casting. Let's just give up on that thing. I can't win. Right, I can compete, but I can't win. Give it up. Put one of these big guys in, and let's see what happens. And actually, in my list, when I take out the casting, I put him in, and I can add more stuff. So I gain more. I gain more by just giving up, spells and stuff. But then, like you said, no Mystic Shield, no fancy spells, no Blizzard if I want to do that, no Hoarfrost if I want to do that. So you trade off a lot to go no casting, but this guy easily fits into my list there. And now, like we talked about, I have another hammer because he is a hammer. Don't get me wrong. This thing will do damage. It will go in and it will crush. It's just because of the amount of attacks, it's not as reliable as the wave of dice you roll for other stuff in the army. That's all.
Yeah, I do like the trickery when it comes to Carve the Path. Like, I think that is one of the reasons you mentioned earlier. Ironjawz has the least amount of tricks. It also is the most guarantee. Like, I play a lot of Gits, I play a lot of Gargans, and there's very little guarantees in my armies. Ironjawz has always been the more consistent side of destruction. Yeah. But this does give you a few tricks. This does give you a few tricks, and probably plays well right now to the current meta where you are finding a lot more castles, a lot more wizard protection, and this slides right through.
We were talking about that. That's what I'm thinking. It's like, oh, you want to protect your wizards? Okay. Yeah, I got this guy right here. Check this out. If it works, but it's still awesome.
But it's timing with momentum. Yep. That's the key. It's not a guarantee. It's not like a Frostlord on Stonehorn who can use their monstrous rampage to charge through. You've just got to find the right timing with that with the momentum score. But overall, I think we like it, but it's definitely not an auto include. Like, I'm not gutting my list to put this into it.
Yep. And again, it's really pretty. So
it's such a cool model.
So cool.
It's so cool. And the final version is the Maw-Grunta Gougers. So this is not a hero version. It does have the ability to be a battle line if your general is a Maw-Grunta. So you could reinforce it, which is neat. It could take up one of your battle line choices if you didn't want to run traditional battle line. What else? Like, it's got a lot of commonality. It doesn't have Carve the Path, so it has its own version of a monstrous rampage. But for otherwise, there's a lot of consistency, right? You do have still the unstoppable momentum. It still has headlong charger. It has a lot of the attack profiles, but that little Orc buggy sidecut attack profile isn't there for obvious model reasons. At 180 points, and as a behemoth scooter, is this a better use of my points if I'm going to build one version of this Maw-Grunta?
No. This is the biggest. This is the one unit that they put out that I can't see playing over almost anything in the Ironjawz book. It's the attacks are far too low. You're losing out. It's 10 points more expensive than 3 pigs. The save is fine. That's great. Always strike last, and Ironjawz for Ironjawz is completely useless. If you're not killing what you're charging, you're not playing Ironjawz right. Your Ironjawz should be going into things that they know they can murder. So your next unit can murder the next thing. So your next unit can murder the next thing. Always strike last. While it's cool, it's great. I don't see it. Like, if this thing gave you always strike first on another unit touching the unit, I can see it, because then you can charge things that maybe your unit 6 pigs can't guarantee kill. So your 6 pigs hit with always strike first, then this thing hits with always strike first. But I think 3 pigs, like the pigs, have more attacks in this thing. And like we were talking about, you have guarantees. I know what's going to happen in this game. I'm going to declare the Wog. I'm going to be Ren 1 with my pigs. I'm going to have 12 attacks my pigs. They're going to be 2 damage each. They're going to hit on 3s to 2s, depending on what you're doing. Your pigs, not even the guys upstairs with Ren 2 are included, and the pigs still have more attacks than this guy. You're missing 3 wounds. Like, all around, this thing is a giant miss. If they would have made it 130 points, I'd consider it. And that's still considering it. It's just, it's not a hero. You can't give it artifacts. You can't do, there's just stuff you can't do with this thing. I'm just not with this war scroll. It's the only war scroll I saw where I was like, I'm just 100% not impressed.
Is there any area where this wins? Like, I'm hearing that the strike last is not value to you. And I think the fact that it's tied to a momentum score makes it harder to guarantee. So it's like, it's super situational. And again, you don't plan around it.
I read this war scroll 4 or 5 times looking for the impact hits. 3 pigs have 3 impact hits, at least on a 2-up. At least 3 mortal wounds. 2 if you just roll average, let's say. I at least get 2 mortal wounds. This doesn't even have that. It's a monster, so I guess I can stomp.
Hey.
Right? I can stomp. That's cool.
You can stomp, you can roar, you can flatten into the mud.
As utility, if it was cheaper, you're throwing it in there with a unit of 6 pigs, I'm going to roar this thing. So at least no command abilities. Here we go. Now my 6 pigs will definitely kill it. But at 180, you're giving up 3 pigs.
What if it was 150?
150 with a roar. You take out all the casting. Maybe you have 2 of these things. So that'd be kind of cool. Have 2 of these things accompany 6 pigs down the field. 1 roar, 1 stomp. So you hit in waves. Like the first wave is this guy in 6. The next wave is the next guy in 6. I could see it. Because
I see this as the way I play with my Stormcast with my chariots. Unfortunately, my chariots are idiots and they can't issue their own commands. But then again, this thing's an idiot as well. It's not elite. No, this is not elite. So you need to babysit this to issue commands. But the way I use my Stormcast, I love having 2 chariots on the flanks that can hold the flank and then compress in when required. I could see a world where you might run 1 or 2 Maw-Gruntas, have them as flanks potentially, have those 6 pigs or those waves of pigs in the center that can move around. And, you know, again, you talked about how important movement is, and I couldn't agree more. But maybe I do feel the 180 points for what it's bringing to the party. And when you look at what's missing, the kill choppers, which is the big impacts, right? 2 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on 3s. It can be up to Ren -3 if you're on momentum score of 6, but you're on average Ren -1, Ren -2, just base. For 2 damage. So it does lose a little bit of damage by not having the kill choppers. And then as you've already recognized, there's also the lack of impact hits that your piggies would be doing that this doesn't have.
Yeah. And you look at it and like from a positive lens, it's like, okay, I'm going to give this guy, you know, +1 damage from a war chainer. It's like, that's awesome. 4 attacks, hits on 3s, wound on 3s on the walk turn, Ren 2 with 3 damage. That's good. That's a good amount versus, you know, 3 pigs that have 22 attacks with 2 damage each. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I like the weight of dice because we've all had that game where we've rolled our dice and you've literally rolled 7 1s or 2s. Okay, well, let me pick up these. And then you roll another 4 1s or 2s. And you're like, all right, make 3 saves. You're just like, oh, shucks. With pigs, that don't happen. Oh, you roll 7 misses? No problem. Here's another 14.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, out of the 3 pig variants, we're probably liking the Hakkin Krew the best. It might be still a little bit overcosted, but of the 3 variants, that middle, not too hot, not too cold, this middle one's just right. Kind of scratches all the things that we'd want from a Maw-Grunta.
Yeah. I believe so.
Hypothetical question: If Bloodtooth was Gore-Gruntas or Maw-Gruntas, let's say in a future world that gets updated, would this change your opinion at all?
Only if I can reinforce them. But 1 model at a time, absolutely not. If I can reinforce them, yeah. Yeah, here. Because two of those guys, now all of a sudden you have 20 attacks instead of 10. Here's 20 attacks. And now all of a sudden, like the weighted dice come in and you're not worried about whiffing all your attacks. You'll take D3 wounds from damn terrain to give that +1 to hit. Here we go. There's hitting on 2s at least. In if you have 20 attacks all hitting on 2s, it'd be really hard to roll 7 1s. You could do it. I've seen it. I've done it. But it's just harder. You need to reinforce them. You need to be able to reinforce these. Then absolutely, I can see them being a thing.
And you can absolutely reinforce them if you're taking the Maw-Grunta. So that's a big commitment. That would be what? That's how many points? That's 380 for the leader, then 180 for 180 each. So right now that's 1/3, almost a half of your army in 3 models.
Yeah, it's just too big of a. My opinion is too big of a commitment. But if they were able to lower the points a little bit, maybe you can squeeze it in. You know, but I mean, and again, it's the thing Games Workshop does. They really do make very beautiful models. And they also go back and go, wait, this isn't balanced enough. Maybe it's too expensive. Maybe it's not strong enough. And they do revisit their stuff. So it will all play out in the end when they see what list combinations people are doing and go, oh, no one's taking this, or whoo, someone unlocked something and this is way too strong. They're good at that. So I'm just waiting, being patient.
So don't not buy that. I think if you buy it, play the long game. You probably will see some points adjustments. We'll probably expect one in December. Who knows?
Yeah.
But right now, I think we all agree that they're interesting. They bring an interesting dynamic. They're cool models. Some of them are better than others, but I guess it's the trade-off. What are you trading off? And the Hakkin Krew probably is where, if we were going to introduce one, that's where it would be introduced.
It's I think it's at a good point value, personally.
Yeah, I would wholly agree. Next up is a Iron Sun specific hero. Now, obviously, you can take it in any of them, but it is Iron Sun's keyword locked, so it's not going to be able to benefit from Bloodtooths or Big Chopper rules. It's Zoggrok Anvilsmasha, which is really neat. It's got its little anvil squeak, which is really cool. 160 points. It's a leader. It is unique, so you can't put artifacts and command traits on it. 7 wounds, 3-up save, a bunch of interesting rules. You can read this on the screen, but Scooter, where are you at with this particular war scroll? Do you like it? Have you included it? What's it doing for you?
So you talk about gets, right? Back in old fantasy, baby. Me and Caleb, we had us a goblin army that was random and crazy, and you never knew what it was gonna do, but you just like, oh, when it worked, you're just like, I'm really sorry, bro. This is going to suck for you. This guy is the coolest model that they put out, in my opinion. It changes your damage output, and it helps you to play. I don't want to say like the long game, but you're now going, okay, maybe I don't charge in turn 1, or maybe I take this flank with 1 unit of pigs and see what they do, because you're trying to get off the green god, right? You're trying to get it off. You just want to see if it hits. I love this model. I think the model not only looks cool, I think it's pointed appropriately. I think it's enough wounds. I think its save is more than adequate. And I think as something sitting back on an objective, not that it's going to kill whatever charges it, it has a pretty cool attack profile. I don't mind the attack profile at all. It does some cool stuff, and I'm actually excited for this one because list combinations and different things we're trying to do. You know, getting that 4 up and all of a sudden you're doing mortal wounds on 6s is just like really cool, because the one thing our army has is lots of attacks. It's like, here comes a plethora of attacks. Okay, even if you roll low, take 5 mortal wounds before I swing in. It's still like, hey, take 5 mortal wounds. Like, it's really cool. I'm glad they made it to where it goes on a 4-up and a 2-up for him, you know. But if it was a 2-up for everything, this thing would have to be at least 200 points. Like, they would have to increase the point value. It's great. Well, I love it.
Well, no, because it's a 2-up, so there's the option of, so one of my next questions is going to be, is when you've got Zoggrok, you can either arm it with the Ward Smasher Chopper, which is when you roll an unmodified hit roll of 6 with the Ward Smasher, you will smash your opponent's wards, and it'll stop them from using their wards for the rest of the battle.
Yeah. Cool. Or the tongs to get the 2-up.
let me get to that. Let me just get to that. That's what the Ward Smasher does, and it's 2 attacks. So you're looking for a unmodified 6 to hit from 2 attacks. Yeah, it is hard. If it happens, yippee ki But you got 2 attacks, so go get those weighted dice from the toilets in Element Games or wherever it was that 40k tournament. Grab those dice and get those weighted dice because it's a bit skeptical on that one. But then the other option is alternatively you can build it, and this is in the rules. You can build it with the Grunta Tongs. So in your hero phase, you pick the 1 friendly Ironjawz unit that's wholly within 12, and you roll the dice. You add 2 if it's armed with the Grunta Tongs. So armor with the Ward Smasher, it's on a 4-up. With the Grunta Tongs, it's on a 2-up. And basically, until the start of your next hero phase, while this unit has the green hot tongs, unmodified hit rolls of 6 will cause 1 mortal wound in addition.
There's that in addition, baby.
So first question, are you arming your Zoggrok with a Ward Smasher or a Grunta Tongs?
I'm going to model it with the Ward Smasher because that's a way cooler looking weapon, but it's tongs all day. It's tongs all day. A 2-up? Here we go. Like, I mean, nothing's guaranteed, but it's a 2-up. And I mean, 6 pigs walking in. Here we go. It's really good. It's really, really good. 160 points, really, really good. I wish you could have all of the weapons and you're just like a weaponsmith with everything. But the tongs are 100% where it's going to be. I don't see anyone actually playing unless some crazy ward thing happens where Games Workshop lose their mind and gives everything ward saves. I don't see them. It's going to be tongs. It's where
if you want this model to do damage, you're clearly going the Ward Smasher. 2 attacks, 3s, 2s, Ren -2, 3 damage. That does damage. Awesome. The Grunta Tongs, not really. It's 3 attacks, so 4 attacks, 4s, 3s, no Ren for 1. So it's basically, do you want this as an attacking hero or do you want this as a support hero? And I think you and I both agree that the support value is far greater than the attacks because the mortal wound generation is going to get you bigger bang for buck than 2 attacks with a Ren 2, 3 damage 3.
Especially at movement 4. And are you really sending this hero down the field to go fight? He's going to sit in the back like a war chainer, move up slowly, hold objectives, fight if he has to, right? But it's another, I mean, you don't want to say trick because it does what it does, but it's another utility piece that sits back and makes your army that much better. And it feeds into the wave approach of attacking where you're not full sending like the Ironjawz player used to in the past where I would just full send everything and just fight. It's like, hey, I'm going to send pigs in and this. It allows you to have waves of just attacks going. He's awesome. He's awesome.
And I think the challenge is it's competing as well with your war chanters and your shamans, right? So if it's a support hero, which is what it's sounding like we would both do, it's where are you getting the points from? Are you swapping out one of your war chanters and you don't need one of your beats? Do you want it as 1 less wizard?
It's going to be less wizards.
That's you. That's where you'd kind of find the spot for it.
For me, I'd be taking out was it Skarsnik? That's the goblin guy. I think his name's Skarsnik.
You mean Scragrot?
Scragrot. There you go. I'd be taking out Scragrot.
All right. Well, that little spoiler, you've allied Scragrot in one of your lists. So poor old Scraggy. Although Scraggy's mortal wound spell is incredible. So
it's very hard. I still have him. Well, we'll get to the list, but I still have him in. I have not taken him out. It's if I put this guy in, what do I take out? Because you're right, like 3 pigs. I don't know if that's the answer. It's like I'd have to drop a utility, and it can't be a war chainer. I need 2 to 3. Like he's so cool though, man. He's so good. To 2-up, it's good. It's very good.
Last question about this unit is who is the best recipients to receive the Grunta Tongs? Is it your piggies? Is it Ardboys? Is it brutes? Is it the Ragerz or the weird Ragerz? What thingies?
It's definitely the pigs. What is it? 22,
Weird
44
brute.
attacks. 44 attacks is you want attacks. So what has the most attacks? 6 pigs. Here comes 44 attacks to come slamming into you. You know, I mean, everyone talks averages, right? But we've all spiked, we've all rolled low. You know, it's just 44 attacks, look for 6s, and smile. The in addition part is amazing. It just increases the amount of damage.
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, even like the brute rages, right? They've got 6 attacks each. If you happen to reinforce them, that's 12 attacks with the chain smasher. That's a lot of attacks.
It's a lot.
You Hoarfrost that to be hitting on 2s, for example, or Ren -3. That's
I can see the combinations. The only pushback to doing it with brute, it'd be a turn 2 thing, right? But with pigs, you're looking turn 1. I'm gonna do this thing on them. We're gonna go and charge turn 1. Here we go. Like turn 2 though, like the waves, like we're talking at 100 points, 200 points of these guys. Here's a ton of attacks. I could run and charge, by the way.
And that's the thing, right? If you just do it on pigs, your pigs are going to be out of range for turn 2 and beyond, or you're going to be spending your command point to get this just to be chasing like you're already doing with shamans. That's already hard enough. But if you have that second wave of brutes, Ragerz, a unit of 3 pigs that you kind of bring in later on, it could be a second recipient. So
yeah, what is it? 36 attacks reinforced for 200 points. 36 attacks. Here we go. That's just barely off of the pig. So it's like, here we go. It's so good. I love this game in the Theory Hammer, and like, I have to play more games. I have to figure it out. You know, it's the best part.
I do this a lot with my grots. So my loon boss on foot gives my stabbers this ability without the it's when it issues all out attack. But the amount of attack generation I can get from a unit of 40 stabbers, when you start applying some of the buffs like fanatics and things like that, it's a lot of mortal wounds. In addition, so the fact that when you do Hoarfrost to get Ren -3, for example, it's a bunch of mortal wounds plus a bunch of Ren -3 attacks equals pain.
Pain's a good word for it.
That's all it is. It's like you dead now. But do you like this war scroll? I certainly do. I think this is neat.
I do, and I said something earlier, and I'm curious how you feel about it. When I first started playing, right, I didn't know how to read the war scrolls and figure it out. I just built my models, and I was like, how do I replicate a champion? I chose the Jaggagor hackers. But my whole unit was Jaggagor hackers, or my whole unit was choppers. I just needed to identify. I wonder how many people would tell me, hey, you don't have tongs on them. You can't do tongs. And I don't think anyone in our community would say that, but it's a pretty model. I mean, I'll say it over and over, but they did good.
WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get. You should be putting the togs on. If it's listed on your war scroll, look. Am I going to lift this off the table? Like, it's.
I played some interesting tournaments. Like, if you feel that way, bud.
I less care about it at a hero level. It's when you start getting into the nuance of, for example, a couple of idiots in the unit have like a special weapon. It's like, okay, well, I need to easily be able to identify that model, and like it's that. But like in an independent threat piece like this, it doesn't really matter.
I agree with you.
Let's be brutally honest.
You said brutes. My brutes are actually correct. Appreciate it.
It is so hard for me right now. I want to buy this army. Like Ironjawz is that slot that my army. Like, I'm a Destro boy. I've turned into a Destro boy, and looking at these models, and I'm feeling
that's why I love you. I just want to play destruction. Right, like I think about other armies. I'm like, I just want to play ogres, and I think about another army. We have a giant army. I want to play Gargants. Like, I don't want to play this other stuff.
This model, I really like this model's aesthetics. Like when I saw that mask, I blew my mind. I'm like, this is like it's bloody what's Bane? It's Bane. It's Orc Bane. So you got your Ardboy Big Boss. So a nice little niche that had to be filled, and we always have to get a small hero with every release of Games Workshop, which is neat. And here it is. Here's our minor hero. It is a big boy's boss. Got interesting attack profile. It's nothing that's special. 5 attacks, 3s, Ren -1. Who cares? Basic profile, moves 4, 3 up safe, which is nice. 6 wounds, 100 points. I think the points is very generous. Like that, 100 points is good. But it's got 2 interesting rules. One being that you can rally twice, so it can issue rally twice, which is cool. And if you do it on Ardboys as well, you've got to do it on Ardboys. And if you do it on Ardboys, you're doing them on 5s instead of 6s, which is super neat. And then the other one is that you add 1 to the shield bash roll, so it'll turn your mortal wounds from a shield bash from a 6 to a 5.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been some changes to the Ardboy, so we'll get to that when we get to that. Thoughts on the Big Boss?
1, like we just said, beautiful. Cannot speak high enough. Beautiful. 2, I don't know the name of the guy, and I really apologize not knowing his name, but there's a gentleman in America somewhere that's been winning tournaments, going 5-0, playing Ardboys and brutes, or it's just brutes, and just tying up objectives, sitting there till turn 3, gaining points and outscoring his opponents. It's not a list that's killing everything it plays, but it gets to the objectives, it stands on them, and it wins because of the battle tactics, grand strategy. It's awesome. This guy, I think, is going to be huge buff for that. So now I'm fooling around with Iron Sun's list and like, okay, take 2 of these guys, take 3 of these guys, take just 10 minions to Ardboys everywhere, run up to objectives, be that anvil holding things down. Like, I personally think one of the funnest ways and most frustrating ways to play Gargants is you walk on objective and they go, "You gonna charge me?" No, I'm just gonna sit on this objective. And they're like, all right, I guess I'll charge you. Okay. It's like, come on over. Like, I don't need to charge you. I'm just gonna sit here and smile. I think this guy allows Ironjawz to play in such a way where you're just walking forward. I'm just gonna sit on these objectives. I have a 3-up save, 2-up if I get some spells off, because now I can play with wizards, I can play with all sorts of stuff. I really like this model for that because of the double rally. They come in, they beat you, they crump your unit, kill 8 guys, you only have 2 left, they kill 6 guys over here. Okay, I'm gonna flee combat. Okay, we'll roll off the next turn. Before you move around, I'm gonna start to rally my guys again. It just lets you like hold a line. And this guy is really effective at holding lines. Like, I like him. And like you said, his attack profile is not terrible. I mean, I'm not going to throw him in as a center solo guy to fight. But again, his utility in the shield bash, when we get to that war scroll, I really like the way it reads. Really like the way it reads. Like, I love this guy. I think this guy's great. Another 100 points, easy. And I don't think he needs to be cheaper, which is rare for this update. I think 100 points is fine.
Yeah, look, he could go 110, 120 at most, but I think it's very fairly pointed. If I was running Ardboys, I would not leave home without him. I feel like this is just natural synergy, and there's a couple of things, right? Even if I ran 1 unit of Ardboys, when you look at the Iron Fisted Commander, if you only issue it once, it costs you nothing to issue that rally on an Ardboy unit. If you issue it twice on an Ardboy unit, that's when it costs you a second. I lied. Sorry, it's the second one. Sorry, there's a couple of rules where the first one's free, second one's not. This one, no, the second one is free. So if I run two units of Ardboys, then not only am I getting a rally on a 5-up, but I can also issue it twice. So it does allow you to run 2 blocks and be bringing back models. And
the rally on a 5-up, though, like, say I really want to anvil, I really don't want to be moved. I'm making 1 block of 20 instead of 2 blocks at 10. I'm really going to sit on the center objective. Okay, now I'm going to flee away. I've lost 7 guys. I'm rallying my 7 on 5-up. I'm getting 2, 3 back. I love them. Love them.
Yeah, and Ardboys, the only caveat to that would be that with the rally changes of only being able to get up to 10 wounds, you can only get maximum of 5 guys. So you would never reinforce the Ardboys to a unit of 30. That's just too much.
Yeah.
But you could do 2 units of 10 or 1 unit of 20, and that's very, very, very durable unit, especially as if you're fleeing and getting out of combat, because it doesn't allow you to rally in combat, which would probably bring its points up. It's not flagellants, it's not zombies, but you sure as hell, that's a very durable unit.
Yes. It does. It fills a position you need it to fill. It's not wasted, and that's kind of why I like it. It does what, if you're taking Ardboys, it does what you need it to do. It's good.
The other call out I'll just quickly make is that this is really a support hero, not a general, because it's also not a mega boss. So I see this as like a sub commander who's supporting your backfield, not necessarily the general, because it's not going to really unlock you anything any extra by having it as a general.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted it because you wanted to be always generating extra command points while you throw up your Maw-Grunta leader or your Maw Crusher, and you don't want to risk losing those extra commands later in the turn, later in the game.
I think the artifact I like is Arcane Tonement. Mystic Shield your squad in front of it. And go, okay, I'm gonna sit right behind it. Arcane Tome, Mystic Shield. Here we go.
Oh, that would be brutal, because I think the value of the Ardboy boss is then kind of directly tied to what the value is of the Ardboys themselves. So as we mentioned at the top of the show, Ardboys have had a war scroll change. So it used to be 80 points for 5. Now you must buy them in blocks of 10, and they are 220 points currently for a block of 10. They're still battle line. They all now have shields, so it's not like 3 in every 5 or whatever it used to be are shields. So they now all have the shields. And I think there was another call out that I thought was really interesting, is that there's no musician, so you don't get +1 to run and charge. Is that what it used to give you?
Yep. But I mean, again, do you need +1 to run and charge? This isn't your hammer. This is your anvil. Like, okay. Like it, I mean, yeah, that'd be great to just have a little extra something, but in the end, oh boo-hoo. Like, all right, I'm not trying to charge with this. I'm trying to hold objectives. In my opinion, right? Everyone plays how they play.
Well, the role changed. Instead of it being the screen that's running up and tying up bodies and, you know, just generally being annoying, it's now truly being this defensive anvil. What do you like about the new scroll, and is there stuff that you don't like about it?
I mean, you talked about points. The points I think are a little bit too high. If they were 200 for 10, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's kind of fair. 200 for 10. I think because of the width of the base, you're almost always, in my opinion, you're almost always going to go stickas unless you have a different. If you want this to be a quasi screen for your stuff in the back where it's super wide, right? You just want to go as wide as possible, then you definitely go choppas. I like that both of them have the shields and both units have a 3-up save. So at any point, as long as you don't get roared, you could be a 2-up right away. You can Mystic Shield and be a 2-up and then go to a 1-up to ignore 1 rend. Like the movement 4 has never bothered me. I at first I would think, oh, this is so slow, but with Mighty Destroyers, I'm going to get to you. But I'm coming. You know, don't worry. And 3-6 charge from a War Chainer. Here we go. Like we're coming over. I like the stickers personally for the +1 rend. An extra attack is great, but with 1-inch reach and squads of 10, I think you're gonna find times where you're not gonna be able to get everything into combat. But you can go a thick 10 wide, march down the field with stickers. Everything's gonna fight. Everything's gonna go. And like we were saying earlier, the Anvil man, you know, 2 attacks with 20 guys. I mean, that's 40 attacks. Let me look for 6s. You know, and here goes 40 attacks for 6s in addition. And then your shield bash, if you have the 1 guy, it happens. You swing, you fight, you kill things, and then you shield bash again. If they don't move out of combat, you just shield bash again. I find it to be a solid army. The points are a little bit high, but I still think it definitely has a place. It definitely still has a place in some of the armies. I unfortunately do not think this will take the place of my brutes, right? I wish it did. If it was a little bit lower in points, it possibly could.
Are the points enough of a difference? Because you have mentioned the points on this particular one, and the points have moved considerably since the old War Scroll. Is 220 enough to stop you from running them completely? Or is it just more of look, they're still really good. It's just that I'd like them to go down a little bit. And I think everyone would agree that most armies wanted to go down a little.
Yeah. It's a boo-hoo. That's all. It's like still, oh, woe is me. I had this awesome unit that with a 3-up save, two wounds each. Oh, why couldn't it just be 150 points? Like I've heard people say some crazy stuff. But I've been messing with lists and stuff, and I think there's definitely slots for this particular unit and a lot of the armies to still, because in the end of the game, it's about points. I need to grab objectives. I need to hold points. I need to do this. It's not about going out and killing your opponent. you know, and that's how people have to start changing the way they play. There used to be a bunch of alpha strikey armies. It's not about that anymore. You got to be able to get your tactic, get your grand strategy, hold points. And this unit, I think, fills a really cool gap that can allow you to start holding points and moving down the field slowly. You know, it's good.
You know, I was just rereading the what's it called? What's the subfaction? The choppers, because you rarely see them, right? Like it's always Iron Suns or Bloodtooth. So I was just reminding myself, because the choppers allows you to issue the War Chanter's ability to 3 different brutes or Ardboy units instead of 1. And that is your pick a unit wholly within 15 until your next hero phase, add +1 damage to melee. So that's, you know, even if you just have them as a pure anvil and they didn't charge, so they didn't get +1 attack or didn't get +1 rend, depending on how your weapon loadout is, getting +1 damage, so getting all of those to damage 2.
Yep. To 2 different squads at the same time, to 3 if you squeeze them in. It's going to be 2. Yeah, that was 2 of the games I've played so far with them, and it's been very effective walking down the field when I get my charge off. You know, my destroyers go 8, 3d6 charge, +1 damage. It's been effective. It's been very, very effective.
So you can still run your pigs, and I know you have a real preference to pigs, but there is actually a real viable list here running a Ardboy heavy focused, chuck them in choppers, you know, tap into the War Chanters with the beats as well as the Violent Fury, the boss we just spoke about with the 5-up rally and being able to issue commands twice. Like there's actually a really nice little package there that you can tap into. And pigs aren't the sole answer, whether it's big pigs or small pigs like your Maw-Grunta or your Gore-Gruntas. I'm starting to feel that there's a couple of interesting list varieties now with these new War Scrolls.
There certainly are. And what I like is it's not just the characters. Like, oh, I'll take these characters. There's some units you can throw into your army. Go, hey, check this out. Like, I could do some different stuff now. Especially, I feel, with these guys. Just the 3-up save for a battle line unit, like, we've never had it. It's so cool. It's just a different way to play. And there's a lot of armies that... So, Blitzbarb Archers, you know, they shoot you. Oh, it's Ren 1. Okay, well, I'll have a 3-up save because I'll out defense because I'm not going to let you just kill my unit. You know, it gives you that defensiveness you need from a lot of the new stuff. You know, with Inet Deepkin, they got a huge buff and their archers hurt you too. It's like, okay, I have a 2-up save. Yeah, it's just different. It just hits different, in my opinion.
What's neat as well, I'm just refreshing myself, is, you know, even the get and beat, you know, being able to do a 3d6 charge, so more reliably getting that +1 attack or +1 rend on the choppers or stickers, in addition to everything else we've just spoken about. Again, it's just reinforcing there is good options here if you want to build into it.
Lots of good options. Lots of good options. Great job on this War Scroll.
Yeah, I really like it. I really like the new model. I like the point. The points could go up, go down. 220. Look, it could go anywhere from like 190 to 230 is kind of the swing. But even at 220, I think it's still. I would not run them because it's 220.
Yeah, and the thing like we talk about, thing I like is it's an Ironjawz army. We're all about damage. You have your guarantees. Here's a War Chanter. You have your guarantees. Here's my Wog turn. Like, you have those. People forget. I don't know why. They talk about, well, statistically, it just does this much damage. Okay, well, statistically, I can give them +1 to hit. Like, statistically, I can give them +1 damage. What are you talking about? I got confused what you mean.
Yeah, statistically, I don't fail as many of my Annihilated charges, which is a 7-up re-rollable.
Oh.
But statistically, I fail them more than I hit them. And there's a direct correlation between the games that I win with Stormcast, which is when I hit my Annihilated charge, versus the games that I lose. And they are always when I fail the Annihilated charge. So the amount of times, like I think it was a tournament once where 4 games in a row, I failed the 7-inch rerollable charge. I'm like, how does this happen? Like, this is ridiculous.
It's funny because like you see it like Caleb sees it, where I'm never mad about dice rolls. What I get mad about is when honestly, I misread like a War Scroll and it's better than it should be. And now I'm thinking about, man, how bad did that impact the game? That was like 2 years ago. Oh boy. Oh wait, my thing doesn't do that anymore. Or my opponent misreads their war scroll, and you find out later, dude, you don't do that. Oh well. That's the only time I was like, oh man, this is an open source game, and I messed up a rule. Like, shoot,
brother, I can't do dice rolls because I'm a Gits player, right? There's been times where my old Mangler Squeak, who does a 4d6 move, would roll so a 3d6 would do a 4-inch move. I'm like, how do I roll 2 1s and a 2? Like, how does that happen? Anyway,
it's the worst. Sorry.
It's a dice game. As a destruction player, you just accept that it's like gambling. It's purely like just roll the dice and hope for the best. What isn't a gamble, and this is a wonderful segue, I'm a real professional here, is these brute Ragerz. Now, holy shite, have I seen some lists which are just like nothing but brutes. So these are a new unit. It's a combination of this one, and there is a Weirdbrute, and we'll talk about these ones first. 3 wounds apiece, 5 up save. It does have some good damage. They are elite. They can issue their own commands. I think one of the reasons people love them is obviously the fact they can run and charge, which is super neat. No momentum score required. And the unmodified hit rolls of 6s cause 3 mortal wounds, but the sequence does end, so it's not in addition. 100 points. This feels like a bargain. Where are you at with the brutes? The brute Ragerz.
All right. The big plus. There's 2, in my opinion, big pluses that's a big positive. They're groups of 3. So if you reinforce them, you don't worry about coherency. You're just going wherever with these units. Big plus. The run and charge, huge plus. Because now we're literally talking about 14 inches. Slower than pigs, but 14 inches. I'm coming down the field. 3 to 6 charge. I'm charging whatever I want to charge. On the walk turn, you're good there too. I like almost all of their weapon profiles for very different reasons. If I was going to be taking them as a addition to my army, I personally would be taking the brute the bone shattering strike, the rune crushes, because here comes 90 dice or 18 dice. I'm gonna roll them. Say you roll just average, and I roll 3 6s. That's 9 mortal wounds you're doing right there, and mortal wounds are king. While there is a bunch of things that do mortal wounds, it's not as prevalent as people make it out to be. And here comes these guys. I don't mind that it stops the sequence ends, because then I think it'd be a little too overpowered. Like, I'm gonna keep swinging, and now here comes D3 more damage. But you're getting that max D3 and it's mortal wounds. I love it. The only thing I wish is that, especially a group like this where they're Ragerz, I wish they would come off a board edge. I wish they would come out of a jungle. I wish they would do something like that. And say you deploy 9 inches away and you get a run move, right? Something like that. Okay, I'm 9 inches away. I get a run move. Say I roll a 1. Now I'm 8 inches away. Let me try to charge you. Give me a cooler trick with the brutes. My problem, right, and it's a very little problem, for 40 more points, I have 6 more wounds and a more guaranteed attack profile.
From pigs?
No, from brutes, from regular brutes.
Oh, from regular brutes.
I have an additional armor. I have 6 more wounds. I have a way more reliable attack profile. But the run and charge, in my mind, it's like, I got to play. I got to play. I got to throw 6 of these in. I got to throw 12 of these in. Yeah, I got to throw freaking 18 of these in. And just, here I come. I'm running down the field. I'm going to tag all 3 of these. So run down the field. Go the guaranteed 6, because I can have 3 units that just move 6, 6, 6. Here we go. Like, I'm gonna swing them into you. I definitely see the value. This is one of the units that I really want to play. Obviously, you can throw them into a math generator and will tell you which weapon profile is technically the best. But I love the brute crushes. I think it's going to be awesome. And our armies that we're weak against are things like OBR that have crazy save stacking. Well, here, okay, you can have your minus, your 1-up save. Take 9 mortal wounds.
Took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say is you have Ren for days. It is the mortal wound generation, especially when you're not charging, that you struggle with. And getting some mortal wounds, I would actually agree with you. And I was going to ask you what your favorite weapon loadout. And there are some interesting options. We talked about, a 6 attacks from the Chain Smasher when you put on some extra benefits that we literally just spoke about.
Mhm.
But I do think the Bone Smash Shattering Strike through the Brute Crusher, yeah, it's only rend -1 for D3 damage, but you're not taking it for that. That's just supplementary bonus of damage. It's looking for those 6s for 3 mortal wounds. And if you can pull off 2 or 3 of those, that's a lot of damage from 100 points. 100, that's nothing.
The other thing, because we talk about like guarantees, the other thing I think is good, if you take that weapon profile, you're not worried about war chainering these guys, because it's not going to, if you roll a 6, it's not going to do 4 mortal wounds. It says right there it does 3. It doesn't do any additional mortal wounds. It tells you how many it does. So you can't war chainer them. Now, if the ones that did roll a 6 go through, sure, it's going to be D3 plus 1, but it gives you more things to run forward. And at 100 points, man, that's awesome. Like, I don't like the 5-up, but that's because I've been living in 4-up world for 5 years now. So it's like, maybe I do for 5-up.
But they are 3 wounds, and I think that's the key, right? Like, when I look at this, I think my mind goes to fanatics. I think of my goblin fanatics, which are 1 wound idiots. They do a lot of damage when they get in, and you don't run them up the board. Like, I hide them, obviously, in a unit of stabbers, but for you, it's almost like you have your unit of Ardboys, and then from the flanks or from behind it, you then kind of spread out, run and charge into combat.
Yep.
You've protected them as best as you can, and then you do a bunch of mortal wounds or high rend, depending on which weapon loadout. And you often and the reason I would be taking these is you're trading up.
Mm-hmm.
When this unit dies, it's 100 points. But when you're killing stuff and you're going in and chipping down that monster to a much lower weapon attack profile, and your pigs can clean it up, or you are taking out a key threat piece or pinning down a threat piece, it's 100 points. You're trading up, you're denying people battle tactics, you're stopping people from getting on objectives, you're killing things, and it's 100 points.
It's just 100. I mean, be the opponent. I have all these cool magic spells I'm going to cast. Here's a big cabbage. Here's this, or here's 2 units of brutes. Are you going to cast your big spell at this 9 wounds, or are you going to cast it at this guy? What do you want to hit? It's cool. It's cool. I need to play is the thing.
I will just call out that there are no ways to make these battle line. So it means that the maximum unit size you can get is 6. Which actually 6 for 200 points is great. It's a good unit to rally. It's a big footprint for having 6 of these. As you mentioned, coherency as well. You don't have to worry as much now that coherency rules have changed.
Yeah, 20% of your army in 2 squads of 6 does not sound bad. 20% of your army with 2 squads of 6.
Oh, 2. Yeah, I was going to say
2 squads of 6.
Yeah, two squads of 6. That's kind of scary.
And like you said, it's all about control, right? Put them on the flanks. I'm coming at you. Here we go. Like, I love it. I love it. I'm happy. These are cool. Are
you running them? Are you going to be running them in your list?
I will be running these. Yes.
Cool. All right, and we will share a couple of your lists. So that's like a loaded question. The other loadout for this, so this is the same unit when you buy the box, it's just a different loadout. It is 25 points more. Same rules apply, can't be battle line, so you can only reinforce them to a maximum of 6, is the Weirdbrutes. Now, the difference here is with the Weirdbrutes is you only get the Chain Smasher options. You've got no other different options. They are interesting rule. They can still run and charge. But what they get is this ward of 5 up when they're within 3 inches of an enemy. So outside of 3, no ward for you. Inside of 3, 5 up. And they also have a rule where unmodified hit rolls for attacks when it's a 6. If it's targeting a unit with 10 or more models, it scores 2 hits. So it has exploding 6s as opposed to generating mortal wounds. So first off, let's talk just as the War Scroll. Do we like the War Scroll independently?
I think the investment to make it reliable is too high. To make
Explain.
They hit on 4s, wound on 4s. You're going to miss half your attacks, then you're going to miss half your wounds. And to invest into making them a reliable, I'm going to go in, I'm going to kill this unit. You're talking, am I going to use my You know, am I going to use a command point to give him +1 to hit? Am I going to use my triumph to give him +1 to wound? Do I want to pop off a damn terrain to give him +1 to hit? You know, there are only 3 wounds. As a Ironjawz player, you don't want to be in combat at the end of your combat phase. You want to go in, kill what you touch, and be standing there ready to charge the next turn. If you're within 3, you only have a 5-up save. I mean, it's a 5-up, 5-up, right? But you're really only have a 5-up ward save against anything that's decent. You know, I don't see these guys being reliable enough to be worth taking. I do love, like we said, that they can run and charge. You know, you pop into a block of zombies. It's like, here we go. You're gonna do a lot of damage to some zombies, but then they're gonna pop back on you and say they just roll 3. Well, they just killed one of your dudes, and they're just zombies. They're all gonna come back anyway. You know, if this unit can walk up and wipe the unit of zombies, worth it. Let's do it. But that's not what they do. You know, they walk up, they kill a couple, then they stand there.
I was going to ask you, is this the answer to zombies? I imagine, like with your piggies, when you run into zombies, like it's a bad trade, right? You probably rarely win that trade when you put the 6 pigs. Oh, I mean, it depends. It obviously depends, right? It depends. It depends. Like let me depend. What I was going to say was, if you put a unit of Weirdbrutes into the zombies, which is probably the highest horde kind of unit you're going to face into, 3's not going to kill zombies. 6 is probably not going to kill the unit of 40 zombies. So you're throwing away 250 and they're just going to regenerate at the end of combat.
A unit that will smile, like, okay, thanks for charging me. Like, I mean, that's the zombie thing. Zombie thing is like, yeah, come on over. You could kill my whole squad. Half of me are coming back in a second.
And you're also not going to be able to get to that the corpse card at the back. So, you know, the green rage. So you go into that unit of zombies, and obviously, you know, cities might bring back hordes. Gits is bringing back hordes, but we're using zombies because they're the most durable of the versions, right? You've got 6 attacks each. So let's say it's a unit of 3 that is statistically going to generate you 3 extra attacks. Just pure statistics.
Yep.
So, but as you mentioned, without any buffs, you're failing half of the hits rolls, you're failing half the wound rolls. So you're really wounding with what?
4 to 5 attacks.
Yeah, like if you generate some extra attacks, you're probably getting around the 4 to 6, 4 to 7 mark on average.
You're killing 14 zombies.
It's 2 damage, but that's not even half the unit. And yeah, you've got a 5-up ward, but it's probably not doing what you want it to do in your head. Like when you see this, you think of it clearing a horde.
Yep. I don't see clearing a horde.
Yeah, even like my goblin stabbers. Like if you put this into my if you put these Weirdbrutes into my stabbers
with your nets hitting on 5s.
And then with my nets coming in, like I actually would feel okay as a goblin player. I'd be like, it's going to be annoying, but I'll just remove some models, rally back on 4s, and I'll hit you back with a bunch of stabby mortal wounds.
From a war perspective, like I'm on the other side of this battle, this is the least intimidating thing on the field. Okay, all right, I'll go focus on that. It's just, in my mind, it's just the least intimidating thing on the field. I'm not even considering playing it.
This is what I'd be concerned about. This, as you've mentioned, I'm sold. This, I'm not seeing the value just yet. And I don't know if it's a points thing. I don't know if points are alone. If this was the same points, let's say it was 100 versus 100, the Brute Ragerz versus the Weirdbrutes, I still think the Brute Ragerz win every single day. I
like the fact that they give them a 5-up ward save. If they ignored everything after the 5-up ward save, this is a better unit. If while it is all gone, okay, cool. I got a 5-up ward save unit. Let's see what it does. But because you add that to it, I don't want to. If I'm in combat, I'm dying anyway. Historically, if my pigs charge into you or my brutes charge into you and I don't clear what I fight, well, you probably just kill what I charged you with.
I think part of my issue with this unit is the green rage being restricted to 10 or more models.
Yes.
I think if this was 5 or more models, I think it would be a much different conversation. Because like when you go up against a unit of Stormcast, for example, the units are 5. When you go up against, OBR, the units of 3 to 6. If you go up against, like, there's a lot of units that are sitting in that 6, they're not at 10s. And
I'll be honest, I don't even like the second half. I think it's just say I would say if the unmodified hit roll for attack made with these units is 6, it goes off twice.
Well,
That's
that would obviously make it even better. But I'm just saying, even the 10 is just
Yeah.
super restrictive. Like it's witch
It
elves,
is.
it's stabbers, it's a bunch of soulblight gravelords, maybe more tech guard, some cities. Like it's a handful of units, and then for everything else, it's like
Yeah. But like you said, I mean, the green hot rage or whatever the green the tongs on this. I mean, 6 attacks apiece, like we said in the beginning. Okay, here's some mortal wounds, and it pops off the attack twice. And okay, so I'm increasing my damage. I don't think they can kill what they're meant to kill. Is my only problem.
Yeah, although like you could do killer beat as well to give them +1 to their hit rolls. You could give them 3d6 charge through get 'em beat. You could heal them with fix and beat to kind of like just be in combat and just keep grinding and pinning, and with the 5-up ward. It could be a nuisance piece actually. Like it could be just get in, pin something, 5-up ward, 3 wounds each. A high enough bravery, they're probably not going to battle shock off, and you don't have to worry about that. If they're in combat, use a fix and beat to kind of you could heal. You could heal them up because it's not hero. It's not a hero heal. It's just a unit heal. So,
and they're pretty. I mean, they have not missed one sculpt yet. They're a pretty unit.
All right, fair to say, not right now.
Yeah,
not right now. All right, that's all the new war scrolls, and we probably went a lot longer than I thought we were going to go to. This is insane. So we're gonna go through this at rapid speed, and not like complete rapid speed, but like we probably. Let's get to the good stuff. So let's talk about the Armies of Renown. So Armies of Renown, for anyone who doesn't know, is treat them as a sub-faction. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. So you've got your traditional Iron Sons, yada, yada, yada. This is a completely different one. Now, the caveat here is that if you use a Grunta Stampede, every model has to be from the Orruk Warclans and have either the Maw-Grunta or Gauggrunta keyword. So no Ardboys, no Brute Ragerz, no War Chanters, no allies. It is purely Maw-Grunta or Gauggrunta. That is it. Scooter, what's your thoughts here? Does that feel too restrictive for you?
Far too restrictive. Far too. You take away every trick. You even with your momentum doesn't degrade the first battle round. Cool. Still, it's extremely restrictive. I don't see how I've tried. We talked before. I'm sitting there like, okay, 6 pigs. Okay, wait, I don't have war channers. Wait, I don't have a mega boss to move 3 things down the field. Okay, maybe the pigs aren't the way. Maybe all big pigs. Let's see what big pigs can do. And I just honestly, I've tried. I've theory hammered it. Maybe I got to play it. Throw some like old school, throw some piece of paper out there and run it around to see if I like it. But I think it's too restrictive. You lose all of your tricks.
Cool. And you also do lose, and just to call out as well, one of the other things is you must use the abilities on this page and then the page I'm going to show you. So you can't use Destroyer, you can't use your mega boss rules even if you wanted to. You can't use your beats as you've mentioned. It's literally just what is here. You can use your universal stuff, but even your grand strategy and your battle tactics either have to come from the Generals Handbook or these particular rules. You can't use like your traditional WAR grand strategy, which I know is very popular for Orc players. Can't use it.
Yeah.
But let's not be a negative Nancy here. Let's look, or a negative coach. What do I get? What do I get off the back if I did do a Grunta Stampede? So there's a couple of key rules that I get. There are 3 rules, and I get a new set of monstrous rampages. So high level, Gauggrunta, the Grunta War, once per battle in the charge phase, you basically call down a War. If you do so until the end of that phase, each time a friendly Maw-Grunta unit finishes a charge move, on a 3+, they take D3 mortal wounds for every unit within 1 inch. The other couple of rules, and then I'll get Scooter to respond. You can make Gauggrunta units battle line. No, Fred, is it Gauggrunta? Is that have I said that wrong? Have I typed that up wrong? That doesn't look right. Is that right?
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, no, it's right. Yep. Friendly Maw-Grunta units gain the battle line battlefield role, and I had this panic that I retyped the whole internet, and then finally, you don't in the first battle round, you don't subtract 1 from the momentum score for your Maw-Gruntas. So 3 sets of rules.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're currently trading off our other allegiance abilities. Do you like any of these, or what are your thoughts so far?
For sure. If you're a person who's I want to jump in with these big pigs all the way and try to make it work. Every one of these rules, I mean, the WOG is a little weak, but every one of these rules is going to help you achieve the goal you're trying to achieve. I need to get down the field. I need to fight. I need to increase my momentum score. I want to have bigger units of gore grunters. I want to have 3 and 3. I want to throw them down the field. Every one of these rules help you. I like that they kept on a 3-up every unit within 1 inch, because that's one of the unique things about pigs. They charge in and, I tag 3 units. I get to roll a 2-up, 2-up, 2-up. Well, this thing, I get to roll a D3, D3, D3. Like, I do think that's really, really cool. I think that's going to be useful. But, I mean, the other WOGs are just a little bit better. I mean, 4 board save my entire army. If you're bone splitters, I get a fight with this many units. If you're Cruel Boys and +1 to rend and +1 to charge with Ironjawz, it's just a little more useful than this. But I mean, the D3 mortal wounds, you can go in and rack up some damage if this is the type of army you're trying to play.
And you did complain earlier when we reviewed the Maw-Gruntas that they didn't have impact mortal wounds. So
yes,
this does bring that to the party if you go into a Grunter Stampede. So do you need them? I guess obviously this is where it's like, do I bring the Maw-Grunta in a Bloodtooths, or do I bring it into the Maw-Grunta Stampede? Pros and cons. And I think both of us probably agree that they're avoiding the subtraction of the momentum score is probably the big win here, because it's hard enough to get your momentum score up. It degrades pretty quickly as per the current rules. This is going to keep your momentum score higher than if it was the same units were in a different sub-faction.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, let's bring it up. But again, just because the way it reads, like this, in my opinion, doesn't become a turn 1 charge army. It's kind of like, let's wait till turn 2. Okay, how do you hold objectives? What tactics do you get? I have no casting. I have to take Arcane Tome to try to get magical dominance to get 1 easy tactic. Like, just the not losing momentum turn 1 is huge. It lets you get up there. So turn 2, here I come.
It's a big trade. It is a big trade when you're thinking about your allies. You're thinking about the other units that you can't bring in. How can you run your army? And you are someone who runs a lot of Maw-Gruntas. So if anyone I thought could kind of see through and see the opportunity, I thought you would be able to go, right, well, yeah, I could do this, but yeah, I'm currently not sold, but obviously a lot of fun. Right now, I still think I would rather the other sub-factions. I'd still rather Iron Suns. I'd still rather Bloodtooths personally.
Right now, but everything's subject to change, so.
Of course. And the final thing before we get into the other rules is you do have 2 special monstrous rampages. Greedy Gobble is if you have a momentum score of 3 or less, pick 1 enemy unit within 3 inches, roll the dice. If the roll is at least double that model's wound characteristic, it's slain. The other one is Charge Down. So carry its monstrous rampage if you made a charge move and the unit is not in a unit with multiple models. So hitting a single monster, a single hero, so 1 model. That model can make a D6. No. Oh, sorry. The model that made the charge this turn. So when you reinforce your double grunters, that couldn't do this monster effect. Sorry. That's what it reads. That model can make a D6 move, but must finish its move within 3 inches. So it's basically like some of the Gits rules where you can kind of hop away and move around. And then you add 1 to the momentum score. So thoughts on these 2?
The first one is just a hard pass. I'd rather stomp or roar. It's just a hard pass. The second one, you're giving up your breach the line, or the one where you charge through, because it's going to be one of those 2 guys who are going to be doing this one. And are you really going to give up Carve the Path to do this one? I don't see it. Now, what this does do is that it gives you an extra 6 inches or a D6 inches of movement plus your 3-inch pile-in to get to something further away. So it gives you even more movement shenanigans to try to get around something if they're trying to screen something out. So it gives you more utility that way. I do like it, and I can see a use for it. But the first one I just think is not good enough.
Let me challenge you on that one.
Shoot.
You mentioned earlier that the Maw-Grunta Gouger, which has the strike last monstrous rampage, was not very attractive. Could this Maw-Grunta Gouger be a good recipient to charge down? Because it doesn't have carve the path.
In the Stampede, that strike last is going to be awesome because of the amount of attacks we do. So it's like, hey, I'm going to make you strike last while this unit does what it got to do. I can, though, however, like you said, if you had one of those guys, let me go ahead and use this. Let me bounce to the side. Let me get that small little character. It's just the charge down, I think, is fine. I think it's going to help you. It's just the greedy gobble. I don't see how. I just don't see what that does for you. Let me pick up one. I guess if a person's dumb enough to stretch their stuff and you can make it to where they can't pile in and you can you kill one guy in the middle or a champion. I mean, that's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, it is generous. Pick one model within 3 inches. So if you can get to that banner bearer, that champion, there's something. There is some tech in there, but I think the question is this better than Raw Stomp, Titanic Jewel, Smash to Rubble?
Well, everything's a monster, so you're going to pretty much get every monstrous reaction you want with this army. You're doing them all. You are doing them all, so that's not bad.
Not bad to have a couple of options. As a Gargant player, I know that I run out of monstrous rampages, and it is worth calling out as well that these monstrous rampages are not available in Iron Suns, Blood Tooths, yada yada yada. Okay, so far, interesting rules. Not convinced completely to completely change your Iron Suns into a Grunta Stampede. But if you did, you have a couple of extra rules. First one I'll do is the command trait. So as I mentioned earlier, the Tuskboss is not a Mega Boss, so you can't use any Mega Boss stuff. It means you have one and one only general command trait. You obviously do have what's in the Generals Handbook and the core rulebook, so you do have those things. Although Generals Handbook doesn't help you right now because they are all Taurian locuses. But you do have Monster Hunter, so you improve the rend characteristic of the Pig Hackers by 1 if it targets enemy monster.
Why they got to add that? Why they got to add that? Here's my one command trait. It's very situational. Would you like it? No, I wouldn't like it.
That's better than Master of Magic, I guess.
Yeah, it's just, oh boy.
Well, speaking of the trend of 1, you've also got 1 artifact, which again for Tusk bosses, so no destroyer for you. But you can get Dub Boom Skull, which the bearer can issue commands to friendly units on the battlefield. That's pretty good. In addition, each time the bearer issues a command, you can pick 1 enemy unit within 3, and on a 3+, it takes a mortal wound. That's not bad.
It's not bad because it can turn all of your command dice you use into mortal wound, and you can really start to pick on some things, especially high armor safe stuff. Things that you're gonna have a hard time getting through. I don't mind this, especially since your options are so limited. The board wide, it allows you to play the flank game. It allows you to use momentum, right? Like in my mind, the thought of momentum is your pigs are running all over the place. You're not going to be in one concise squad. You're not going to be castled. So it allows you to really open up your options. Now, you can't issue, the same command 3 times, but you still pick on some stuff.
I think it becomes helpful with the Maw-Grunta Gouger because it's not elite, so it needs to be babysat. Yes. And you don't want to be hugging your general with this model. So being able to issue a command anywhere on the board can be actually really helpful. Yeah.
I do like it. I mean, it's one of those things I read. I was like, oh, that's neat. Board wide command. Because we all got the bubbles. We have our tape measure. Like, am I within 18? It's like, go child, go forth and conquer.
It's super helpful. Yeah. The reason you're probably taking the Maw-Grunta Stampede though is because you get 3 mount traits, which is super neat, right? Proper Ard, Proper Nasty, and Proper Wild.
I love the names.
They're a lot of fun. So basically, Proper Ard, when this unit is targeted for an attack, basically rend 1 goes to rend nothing. So this does not reduce rend by 1, folks. I know this personally from Gargants. They have the glowy shield of protection. It's purely turning rend 1 into rend nothing. It doesn't turn 2 to 1. Cool. The other 2 is add +1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by this unit's mounts. If any wounds or mortal wounds were allocated to this unit in the same phase. And then finally, at the end of the enemy charge phase, before any monstrous rampages are done, if it's more than 3 inches from all enemy units, but within 12, what? I can do a charge. What? At the end of the enemy charge phase, before monstrous rampages are carried out, if this unit's not in combat, but it is within 12 inches, it's almost like a alternative version of
Iron Suns.
the Mighty Destroyers. Like, you know how you can make that hero phase move? This is just allowing you to do a charge, enemy charge phase charge, like a counter charge on a 3+. So you get 3 of them. So it's not even a choice. Like, I get 3.
You get 3. You put them on. Papa Wild is in my opinion clearly like the winner of these 3.
I was gonna ask you to rank them. Like, how would you rank them? So Proper Wild, I agree with you.
Proper Nasty is the second one, and Proper Ard is okay. You know,
agreed.
You know, but I mean, the only downside of Nasty obviously is they have to wound you for this to take effect, so you have to let them hit you first. But you're not gonna swing with everything. But yeah, Proper Wild is pretty interesting. I like anything that lets you interact during their turn, like shuffle up the game, is really fun. Trick, a really fun thing to do to people.
One thing I will say in the defense of Proper Ard is being able to, let's say, for example, put it on a Tuskboss on the Maw-Grunta. If you charge into something that you know has rend -1 at most, you know, popping on a Mystic Shield if you had Arcane Tome, or if you put a Titanic Shield, Finest Hour, you know, going in having that 2-up save because it's a base of 3, ignoring rend -1 because it turns into nothing, and you still issue all out defense. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't issue all out defense. But if it's just a flat 2-up save, like, you could absolutely do some damage and know that you were going to survive this and survive it very well, almost unscathed.
Well, like you said, it does your job, right? Like, most battle line units are rend 1. It's like, okay, I'm gonna charge a battle line unit. I'm gonna beat it up. If I don't kill it all, it's all right. I'll kill it next turn. You're not gonna do any damage to me. Everything has a place, and I don't think any of these mount traits are not takeable, right? They're all takeable. It's just, you know, you rank them and you figure out which ones you like the most. I mean, I could see games where Ard is the best one because everything is rend 1. Suck it. You're not getting me.
You know what? I'm going to change my opinion. I think it's Wild, then Ard, then Nasty.
Then Nasty.
I think that's. I think Nasty, just because you've got to suffer the mortal wound or the wound in order to get the +1 to hit, +1 to wound. So,
and that's only for the mounts attacks, not for all the attacks. So you're probably right. Live change right here. Wild, Ard, and Nasty. Live change.
You don't have to agree with me. Like,
no, you're right though. You're right, because I have to choose to let you hit me for me to get my thing, and it's a very limited amount of attacks that your pig has. It's not all the attacks. If it was all the attacks, Nasty would be my second favorite, but it's only the pigs.
Proper Nasty could be good on a Gouger, right? Because it has the worst save of the bunch. It's probably going to be a bit more independent, so you could, soak up a couple of wounds on it, and obviously pincer it and get it to be attacked by a limited amount of models. But a couple are going to go through. Boom. It's the tusks and the trotters. Like, you're not sacrificing the what's it called, the killer choppers, because it doesn't have killer choppers.
Yeah, and the other thing to remember is most armies get 1 mount trait. This gives you 3.
Yeah,
it's like,
I like it. It's like old what's it called? Ogres. Ogres get the 3 mount traits, right? If you're in the sub faction.
Yep, it's interesting.
Grand strategy, you've got 1, so you don't use your generic orc ones. It is head of the herd, so when the battle ends, you complete the grand strat if your general had a momentum score of 6 at any point during the battle and has not been slain. Thoughts on this one?
It's the has not been slain part is the problem.
Yeah. Because like if in this one, right, you're not losing momentum in turn 1 on either side, right? So if you can roll a 3+, you'll be on 4, and yeah, you'll attrition down to 3. But like there's a good chance that you'll
You're
hit
gonna
6
run
at some point.
and be above 4, and then charge and be at 6.
Yeah, like there's a good chance you'll get 6, but the question is, is it not slain? So then it puts a big target on the head of the Tuskboss, and you can't put the 6-up ward artifact. Oh, you can put the amulet.
The Griff Feather Charm.
No, the 6-up ward artifact. What's it called?
Armor of Gorkor.
No, the universal one. Amulet Destiny.
It's a 6-up.
Is it a 6-up ward?
That was a 5.
In my head, I'm going ethereal amulet. I'm like, no, it's not ethereal amulet. Like in my head, I'm stuck. But you've got the 6-up ward artifact. It's the amulet.
Yeah, but it's a 6-up ward.
I'm just saying, like, if it survived, like, if that's your only grand strat out of the others, you want to increase the durability, and a 6-up ward is better than nothing.
I like that one part of this is guaranteed. You're probably going to get to 6. It's going to be hard not to get to 6. It's why'd you have to add that? Because it's cool, man. It's like, yeah, you're really leaning into what your army's supposed to do. And then they go, hey, and don't die. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
And what makes it harder is that you don't have a fix and beat, right? So you can't heal those 3 wounds. So you're relying on heroic recovery just to get those wounds back. Because you will eventually take 14 wounds. And unfortunately, without any war chanters, it just makes your life just that little bit harder. And
we all know, as players who play the game, around turn 4, hey, what was your grand strategy?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, oh man, here we go.
Yeah, sniping pretty quickly. That's why, like, my spellcasting savant little 5-wound idiot, I'm just like hiding it everywhere, just not to die. Like, just like he'll die. He'll die to a stiff breeze.
As he should.
Hey. That's why I put it on my Fungoid Cave Shaman, because he can't be targeted outside of 12 inches. So unless you got Splash Mortals, like,
it's a beautiful thing.
Unless you're an idiot and let Kato charge directly into him because he's got like stupid movement. The last 3 things is the battle tactics. You've got out of control, the boss leads the way, and full speed stampede. So 1 is you complete the battle tactic if you carry out both the greedy gobble, charge down, and 2 other monstrous rampages. So you got to pull off 4 monstrous rampages in the turn.
Easy. Because the game is about points, it's about tactics. You build your list for the greedy stampede to do this. You go, okay, I'm going to have 4 180-point monsters that are solo, 2 units of 2, right? 2 characters, maybe a 3rd character. Okay, I got like 9 monsters. You're going to have 4 monsters in combat at some point. It's going to happen. And it's about points. You're going to get that one. That's almost an auto get.
Yeah, Raw Stomp. By the time you get into combat, you can do Greedy Gobble because it's a momentum score of 3. So I imagine it'd be super rare that you, especially in this sub-faction where in the turn 1, you're not reducing your momentum in the first rounds. So it's probably a good chance you'll hit Greedy Gobble unless you try to do this late game, then that'll be question mark.
Well, the thing is, you just have to say you're doing it. You don't have to slay anything. All right, I'm going to do Greedy Gobble. Oh, I failed to kill you. You still get it.
No, but isn't Greedy Gobble? You can only carry it out with the momentum score 3. So
I see what you're saying.
So if you've only got momentum 2, you can't even issue it.
Yeah.
The other 2 is you complete the battle tactic if during the turn your general calls the Grunta War. Okay, that's an auto tick. And any enemy units are destroyed by attacks that you made by the general or the abilities used by the general this turn.
I like, it's one of those rare times I like that they added that. Because, I mean, how many times have you messed up and stomped and killed a unit that you're supposed to kill with attacks? You're like, oh, damn it. Or impact hits kill it, and you're like, oh. It's like, all right. I like that they at least added that. Like, all encompassing. Did the general kill this thing? It did. I got it. Here we go. And like we talk about guarantees, if you're sending your general into something you don't know if you're killing, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Sounds like a bad trade. Yeah.
I like that one though.
That one is a good one. It's a very
Mhm.
easy one to score. The other one is if at the end of the turn there are 3 or more friendly Maw-Grunta units on the battlefield that each have a momentum score of 5+.
At the end of your turn. If it's my turn, I guess I can stack it and decide I'll check for this before I lower the momentum score. This is my turn. I can do it in any order. They both happen at the end of the turn, right? The
At the
momentum, it goes away. Don't I get a stack and pick? I'm pretty sure I do.
at the end of each turn, subtract 1 from.
Yeah. So even if I have 3 things at 5, I can go, okay, I'm gonna check this first. Got it. And now I'm gonna lower the turn.
That sounds like an FAQ errata.
They're gonna
but
have to FAQ that.
That sounds like an FAQ errata. Based on what you've said, yes, unless someone proved me with some evidence to say otherwise.
Yeah, I'm not perfect.
No. Obviously, you know, we're in the moment having a conversation. I'm not going to pull up and spend 5 minutes looking the rules. But yes, this feels like a late game, and you want to. Even then, like, are your monsters going to be on the table? You're going to have 3 Maw-Gruntas on the table, which through attrition might be hard to do. So maybe it's a turn 3 to turn 4 one.
Yeah. The tactics are interesting because of the time we're in. It's all about casting. Well, I don't have casting. So there's enough, I think, tactics for you to get 5 out of this army.
But a blizzard will delete one of these. Like a blizzard will delete a Maw-Grunta every turn. And you'll be in combat. You'll be within my 12, and I'm going to use my blizzard wizard.
Yes, and you don't have magic to stop it, so you're just going to suck that up, Buttercup.
Yeah, you're going to be using. You have to use heroic willpower. Not heroic willpower. Heroic willpower. Yeah, heroic willpower to get yourself an unbind. That's which then counteracts trying to use heroic recovery to keep your general on the table. So.
And you only have one of those. It's just crazy, man. I guess you have 2. I guess you have Arcane Tome on someone and be like, I'm going to try to compete. Good luck.
And I think, folks, for anyone who's thinking about taking the Armies of Renown to a GT, I think that's critical, right? Is what is my trade-off here? Will I take this to my club and have some fun? Absolutely. Would I take this to a GT and hope to win 3 or 4 games? I'm probably going to have to play out of my skin, where I think I could do a much better performance and combination by going in Iron Suns, by taking some Bloodtooths. Hell, you know, taking some of these new models and then adding into the choppers and building around that Ardboy kind of anvil as well. So I am conscious of time, and my original plan was to go through some of these rules, but we are at the 2-hour mark, and that is well beyond where I expected us to be.
I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, and I could too. Like, I appreciate this, and we're having fun, right? It's I'm enjoying myself, and but I haven't got a cinema for people to play this 3-hour Marvel cinematic movie on. So let's like do some elevator kind of pictures.
Yep.
Outside of the Army of Renown, is there any particular things that are really working for you right now in the current Generals Handbook, whether it is a particular sub-faction that is complementing you better than others? Do you find you're using a certain Mighty Destroyer better to kind of get in and kind of kill those wizards sooner? Are you finding anything here on this screen you'd want to call out in GBH23?
Iron Suns has some really interesting lists right now with the controlling the board, getting on objectives and holding them and countercharging with different units you might be allying in. You know, we talk about the other brutes. I think Iron Suns is going to get a little bit of an uptick. My style of playing is Bloodtooths because I like to control the board. So I'm there, but I'm looking at other armies. Obviously, all of the Mighty Destroyer stuff is extremely good. The WOG is extremely good. Smashing and Bashing is extremely good. Choppers is cool, but I don't know if I would go Choppers over Iron Suns, even though they give you 3 different units can have +1 damage. The ability for Iron Suns, you not to charge someone's brutes because you're afraid of them, and they go, okay, well, I'm going to charge you now. Or you charge the brutes, and you have your Maw Crusher close enough, like, okay, now my Maw Crusher is going to fly over and charge you. Like, there's a lot of things Iron Suns can do right now if we're going to play the patience games with Ardboys and sit on objectives. I think we're going to see a little bit of an uptick on Iron Suns because of Ardboys, because of the different brutes we have now. controlling the board, making little missiles instead of being 3 wide, be 3 long, and darting in to get your attacks in with Iron Suns. I think Iron Suns are going to uptick, and I'm actually looking at those too. I'm interested in them.
I think part of the reason as well why Iron Suns is going to get that massive uptick is the fact that it's only keyworded to Iron Suns, where it's not restricted to Gore-Grunters, it's not restricted to Ardboys. And there's 2 new units that we haven't acknowledged, which obviously is your brute variety, your brutes and your weird brutes, which actually get no benefit in Bloodtooths or Choppers. No. Your new Maw-Grunters don't get any benefits in Bloodtooths. So I hope, and I don't think it's going to happen, but I'd love to see a 4-week FAQ after this book, or maybe even a tweak to the Ironjawz rules to include Bloodtooths as Gore-Grunters and Maw-Grunters. I'd love to see some other rules that acknowledge the new units, because otherwise, you're right, Iron Suns is that universally beneficial, and it's a good set of rules. Where if you could add the Choppers in to maybe add your brute versions, your new weird brutes or your brute Ragerz into the Choppers, I think that becomes more spicy.
Yeah. And remember, Maw Crusher, I can 1 command point, 3 different units. Here we come.
Yeah. And we haven't even talked about the Maw Crusher. It's still good. It's still a good unit. Am I fair to assume, and I'm not going to go into like the command traits, but am I right to assume that you aren't using the Entorian Locus command traits at all? Like, you're not going to be sacrificing Hulking Brute or, Master of the Weird or Mighty Warg Leader for Shaman of the Chilled Land?
No. You can't compete in that field. Why take it? In my opinion, right? Like, sure, you might have some niche thing. I want to get Blizzard off. I'm going to use all of my dice to get it off. I'm going to be next to Arcane Terrain. I'm going to get this off. Sure, you can try to get that 1 spell off in case they're within 12 inches. Sure. You can do not Blizzard, Hoarfrost. Hoping you roll that 3 for Ren 3. Hoping you roll that 1 for +1. But remember, you got to pick your weapon before you roll. I don't like competing in places where you can't win.
I like the idea of Shaman of the Chilled Land, but when you stack it up against Mega Bossy or Mighty War Leader, they just don't compete, right? Like, those 2 are just better than the Shaman of the Chilled Land.
I agree.
Because you don't play that well, do you in Magic, like Scooter clearly plays well. It's the Magic that I'm talking about. But do you find yourself at all without wizards at all? I know you've outused Scragrot or Fungoid Cave Shamans and Gitz wizards. Do you see a world where maybe you don't have any wizards at all and will play into these new Nullstone Endowments?
1,000%. I'm very curious because right now, like you said, I'm stopping 1, maybe 2 spells. Is stopping 1, maybe 2 spells worth not having an anvil or worth not having 2 more hammers? Like, I can control so much more of the board if I just ignore these spellcasters and just go full tilt. Or more waves. Turn 1, 2 things. Turn 2, 2 things. And turn 3, 2 things going forward. Plus, I personally like Pouch. It's like, hey, miscast on 1, 2s, and 3s. Have at it. Like, roll your spells. And you're really only worried, like we said in the beginning, those 2, maybe 3, 4 armies that have a ton of casters. Like, Soulblight has a lot of casters too, right? So here you go. Roll your 7 spells. You're going to roll 1s and 2s. And then with the extra dice, throw an extra dice in there. Now you have a bigger chance of rolling another 1 or 2 or 3. So I think there's definitely a world, and I am playing without casters, where it's like, let me do some practice games, see how I feel, figure it out without any casters. It's a lot of fun because that's how you add in all those new units, all the new stuff you want to play. You got to drop something.
And that was part of the question, is we've talked about, to add that new Anvil Smasher or to add something else in, it might come at the cost of a wizard. And with the Pouch of Null-Dust, for example, now that Blizzard can't be casted if you teleport, it's much easier to anticipate when you need to shut down that likely once per game, twice at most, that critical Blizzard throwing down the Pouch of Null-Dust because the Blizzard wizard's within 12 inches of something that it wants to get into. Boom, throw down the Pouch of Null-Dust, and they'll probably kill themselves, or they will deny that shot to Blizzard, and they'll wait the next turn, or they're a mad lad and will do it anyway and
Crazy.
suffer the consequences.
That's me. I do. I don't care. Let's go. We're casting this spell.
I see a 1 and I'm out. I'm like, nope, I'm out. I'm out. See you later. Bye.
That's true.
No spell for you. So cool. All right, it's good to know because I imagine you are on the fence. You can get a wizard, or you don't. You know, you're an army that can go either way.
Yep.
We won't talk about those because they are they'll be on your lists.
Yeah.
But if you are taking a Antorian Locust wizard, which is your shaman's the only native option, right?
Yep.
What spell are you taking and why?
Hoarfrost or Basham Lads. I think it's called Basham Lads.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you're going one of the spells. Basham
if I'm taking a spell, like I'm done. I really liked Handagort. That was cool for a while, but I'm so maneuverable. It's okay. Like you can do some cool tricks with it, but I do like Hoarfrost. I think Hoarfrost is fun. I've never taken Blizzard, even when you can teleport your guy into it. I'm good. I've never taken Blizzard. Rapture, I don't run an Incarnate. New Rapture, I can see you play for New Rapture for those people that, because it kind of went heavy again, where everyone's playing the Incarnate. I'm like, okay, everyone's playing this again. It was funny though, because you can tell the people who played a lot and people who don't, because they're constantly getting in combat with themselves. I'm like, bro, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to your brother about it because he was the innovator of Incarnate before Rupture and the cool kids started latching onto it.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, who is a good recipient for Hoarfrost in an Ironjawz list?
Pigs that win nothing. Throw them on the pigs. If you roll 1 or 2, if you roll a 2 through a 4, okay, my pigs wound on a. Oh, if you roll 2 or 4 or 1 or 2, my pigs hit on 2 or wound on 2. If you roll 3 or 4, I'm Bryn 2. If you roll 5 or 6, I'm Bryn 3. You put it right on the pigs and you smile. You charge that 6-man squad right into something, and there's 24 attacks. If you get lucky, Bryn 2. If you get really lucky, Bryn 3. Like, it's awesome. It's awesome to watch them go into things.
I remember playing one of the gentlemen, Brett from Wohammer once, and he ran 6 pigs into my Gargant, and I remember him like finishing the attacks, and I'm like, "Is that all you do?" And I'm like, I was disappointed for him. I'm like, "Oh, is that all?" I think Mo Gatebracker used to and like deleted them or deleted a lot of them, but like now add Hoarfrost. And wow, there's some mortal wounds on impacts with the red -3. Like that's a pretty scary threat.
Yeah. 20. What is it? 24 attacks, so it's 40. Possible 48 damage. It's like, here we go.
Is that all?
This is awesome.
Is that all? So I want to get into the good stuff, which is obviously we've talked like 2 hours of theory. We've talked about how you're thinking about Generals Handbook. You've obviously done incredibly well in the tournament scene. I want to see how your list constructions kind of work. So the first list that you've got here, and I'll go through it quickly, is the Orruk War Chanter with the Fix and Beat. You've got a Weird Knob Shaman with Hoarfrost. You've got a Mega Boss on Maw-Crusher, which is the General, with Hulking Brute, Boss Chopper, Rip Tooth Fist, with the Destroyer Artifact and the Fix and Mount trait. You've got the War Chanter with the Get 'em Beat. You've got an allied Scragrot, the Loon King. You've got 6 pigs, and 10 brutes. That is the... Yep, that's right. So the app's been playing up a little bit, so the points may be off, but the total score is correct. Total at 1970 under a battle regiment. So this is a 1 drop. 3 drops, 1 drop, 3 drops. I was quickly in my maths trying to count up how many minor heroes you had. Cool. 3 drop. What's this list do and how does it work?
It's so we talked earlier. Scragrot, his solo spell is incredible. The other thing that's incredible about him is the free command dice. He's a guy that if you want that spell to go off to do some damage, you could make sure it goes off. So it's reliable, right? The extra command dice is huge. The 4 ward save means he can sit on objective and he can take attacks from a decent amount of stuff. Not everything, obviously, but a decent amount of stuff. He can stand there and smile. I really like him in the list, and that's definitely. Caleb finally looked at my list. I'm not gonna lie to you, and within 20 minutes, goes, "Why don't you put Scragrot in?" I go, "What the hell does he do?" I go, "I can ally a goblin." I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like, "What can I do?"
Awesome. Now, obviously, the War Chainers, Fix and Beat and Get and Beat are, I think, the two most optimal. I do like the +1 to hit because I could do that during your turn. I think that's awesome. I don't know if I really like the Weird Knob Shaman with Hoarfrost, but I think it's better in this list than doing like Basham Lads. I used to have Arcane Tome on the Maw Crusher just so I have 4 casting for 4 dispels, and it would work. It would do a lot of dispelling, but I will say at Nova, I ran into a lot of Horde units that I like we were talking about. I haven't seen a lot of Horde, and all of a sudden,
They're back.
22 archers, a 20-man squad of this. Here, it was like, wow, there's a lot of Horde. So Destroyer, chef's kiss, comes in and just clears it all out. Obviously the Gorg Runners, they're too good. The points are wrong, like you said. It's 340 for the units of 6, but the math comes out right to where it's 1970.
It's illegal. Don't at me, folks.
Yeah, please calm down, guys. It's the internet. Like, it's whatever. But Gorg Runners come in and it's the plethora of attacks. You know, you come in, and I like that unit because you can charge into the middle of someone's army, fight, kill the thing you fought, and you can go, okay, I'm deciding to charge into the rest of your army to tie you up, or I'm going to flee in a direction to make you like separate your army. You know, because maneuvering and movement is like the king of this army. Is like, hey, you have to decide where you're going to dedicate stuff. I can come in, kill your small squads that you plan on holding the side objectives with, move away, and now you decide: are you going to migrate your castle over here? Over here, you're going to split it. And once you decide to split it, I'll devote my entire army to one half, kill it all, and then turn 2, devote to the other half. It's strong. It's solid. 10 brutes have such. Not guarantee. It's a good attack profile, right? It's one of those things you read and you're like, wow, this is a lot of damage. And like we're talking about guarantees, if your brutes are charging, you're always going to put a War Chainer on them. So here's all this extra damage. It's just awesome. And like we said, Scragrot can turn that one spell that person wants to get off, and now I can compete against one spell. You know, you want to cast your teleport spell. Now I'm stopping it. You want to cast your portal. No portal.
Well, even magical dominance, right? That for a lot of armies, that turn 1 battle tactic is incredibly hard. So they want to go for that Mystic Shield. You deploy Scraggy correctly, he gets +1 to his unbinds as well as a double caster, double unbinder. You put all your primal magic dice behind it, and you'll shut it down. Without Scraggy, I look at your list and go, yeah, I could probably get it off. But this makes it harder, and the amount of times that Scraggy has gotten me out of magical supremacy by killing a unit with mortal wounds or spells.
Yes.
I can use the primal magic dice to get the spell off. I won't extend the amount of mortal wounds that he generates. But if I cast it on, let's say, an 8, that's 8 D3. So 8 3+ will do a mortal wound. So with the right target, with a range of, I think it's 24.
24.
That'll kill something pretty quickly, and that'll be a battle tactic.
And it scares people. The other thing is when you tell them, because I don't hold anything back. I tell my opponent exactly what my stuff does because I need them to understand everything is dangerous. I have no lights except for the Weird Knob Shaman. There's nothing in my army that is light. Everything, it does something. Everything. It's awesome. And people are like, oh, he does what? Check this out. Like, it's really cool. And so the moon. It's only happened once where I played against goblins. They're called something else, but I get to control your moon. Yeah, that's what it says. Awesome. Move it off the board. Get it out of here. I was like, does it really work like that? I was like, if you say so, bro. All right, cool.
You can choose to move it one, or you can hold it. So you can obviously move it into get it out of the center, which is where I want to keep it, and move it. So like they lose all the benefits. That's sneaky.
And the point values. I'll say the point value 1970. I think one game in all of Nova, and I played 11 games, I didn't get the triumph. People are really close to 2000 now. Like, there's not a lot of 1950s, 1940s. So I
called that out recently, actually, because I ran my GT and I did a list analysis, and you're right, about 70% of the field was sitting around the 1980 to 2000 mark. So you know, LVO last year, where we hang out. People were running like 1890 to 1900.
Crazy.
People were fighting for the triumph.
Yes.
Now It seems like everyone's chucking in that extra endless spell. They're finding in that little extra wizard and they're at their cap.
Yep. I love this list. This right now is my main list, but I am looking towards other things right now. I'm not going to lie to nobody.
And obviously, if you want to stay in-house, you can obviously change this to your heart's content. Swap out Scraggy, put in your Anvilsmasha, put in something completely different. Like this is not the internet list, and not recommending everyone runs this list. But speaking of our Anvilsmasha, list number 2 is an Iron Suns list. You have 2 War Chanters. One has Fix and Beat, one has Get and Beat. You have the Ardboy Big Boss, which has the Nulled Stone adornment, the Pouch of Null Dust. You have Zoggrok Anvilsmasha with his Ward Smashing Chopper. Even though we just talked about the Tongs being incredible, I reckon that was a misprint.
Just a little bit.
As a misprint, Tongs for days. He's the barbecue man. You also got a Mega Boss on Maw-Grunta with Hulking Brute, literally the same loadout we just had. I'm not going to repeat that. You have 10 Brutes, 20 Ardboys. That's obviously 440. Again, don't at me. It's Warlord and Ironjawz Fist, which is one of your book battalions.
Yes.
So how is it? And 1950 is the points allocation. So what does this list do differently that the other one doesn't?
So it's like I mentioned earlier, the gentleman who's playing the Iron Suns list and holding objectives. It's my version of wondering if this would work. I want to kind of play it and test it out. It's moving brutes up the sides with a block of 20 in the middle. In my head right now, I have the Patch of Null Dust. I was playing with, okay, let me get Magical Dominance off. Let me get 1 caster, put Arcane Tome on, sit behind the Ardboys, give them Mystical Shield. There's a battle tactic. Try that. Am I 30 away? Okay, I'm 30 away. You can't stop me from getting the spell off. Guaranteed spell. Let's go. Right. So maybe I switch to that. It's the double inspired. It's being down with the Warlord taking another triumph because you don't really need another artifact. Trying to figure that out. If I go with the Arcane Tome, obviously it'd be 1 inspired. I would take another artifact. But right now I'm looking at, I'm going to move up. I'm going to tag these objectives. I'm going to control my territory, not your territory, where Bloodtooth, I'm controlling your territory and mine. I'm going to sit there. If you move forward and say you decide, okay, I'm sending my big thing into a block of 10 Brutes or the block of Ardboys, you turn and go, okay, I'm going to countercharge with my Maw-Grunta and 10 Brutes that were on the flank. So it gives me more maneuverability is what I'm thinking. And I personally, taking a Maw-Grunta out of your army is really hard. Getting the three command dice, getting all that stuff, the threat of him, the amount of damage he does, it's hard to take him out. It's just
he has psychological benefit that people know that this is pain coming, and can often be a distraction piece where people will focus on bringing that more crusher. I've been so used to trying to say Maw-Grunta now. It's just I'm just trying to stop myself from saying Maw-Grunta. That now it's actually hard to say Maw-Grunta. People focus on the Maw-Grunta so much that it lets your brutes or your piggies or everything else get avoided a little bit. So I get it.
In this list, like I said, I mean, there's so many different ways to play the game, and I think that's the fun part. Is like you watch these casting armies that are castling. It's like, oh, it's so cool. But how do you guys get objectives? And then you have other armies like the zombies. I'm gonna slowly walk down the field and hold it. It's neat. I like that there's not one list that has to be the list everyone plays. That here comes my shooting list. Here comes my combat list. It's cool. And this is just my version of a slowly move down the field, control as much as I control. I love inspired, especially on brutes. They're going to be +1 to hit most of the time against anything they're worried about. So now the +1 hit and +1 to wound. It's like 2s on 2s it's good. 2s on 2s is good.
And people often sleep on the fact that with Warlord or even Command Entourage, you can take an extra triumph. And it's obviously risky because if you don't win the triumph, you don't get anything. But being able to do double inspired or double battle shock immunity or battle reroll charges, there's so many useful things that if you play to it, it can be incredibly powerful.
Yep.
The last list, and again, a little bit of combination. Speaking of shooting, you've got your Tuskboss on Maw-Grunta, which has the Tusk Helm artifact. Yes, yep. Where's that from? You can take it, right? That's not Mega Boss only.
No. It's a Generals Handbook.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, it just says
hope-
tusks. I'm like, no. I just look at the tusk. I'm like, tusk sound like orc. That's all right.
Yeah.
You got your Mega Boss on Maw-Crusher, so you've gone two biggies. Same combination, Destroyer, Fasten, yada yada yada. How'd you get? Has this got? This hasn't got double triumph though. Have I
Nope.
stuffed this up?
It just says inspired. It shouldn't.
Yeah, so I've stuffed this
That's
up,
an extra
folks.
artifact.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. I stuffed that one up, folks. There's only one inspired. His Warlord discussion is an extra artifact. So
Yeah.
you've got Destroyer on the Mega Boss on Maw-Crusher. You've got the Tusk Helm on the Tuskboss on Maw-Grunta. You've got a War Chanter with the Pouch of Null Dust and the Fix 'em Beat. You've got another Chanter with the Get 'em Beat. 20 Moon Clan shooters being brought over from Gits. You have 6 Gore-Grunters, 6 Gore-Grunters, and 5 Loon Smasher Fanatics at 1980 under Warlord. Extra artifact, not extra triumph.
Yeah, you even have it right. Additional enhancement artifact.
Yeah, I forgot to remove double inspired. But how's this one differ from the other two?
So it gives me, instead of my army in the past has always been like go go go. This one's more go go go. And I want to give a shout out to my club mates who were sitting there at Nova and we're talking about, hey, what else can we do? What can we do different? And we have a list of 20 Moon Clan shooters with 10 fanatics. And it's like with no Tuskboss. And you're talking the Moon Clan shooters run down the field, you make them run, you release the fanatics now charge into something. You're right in front of them. Here's 10 fanatics, always strike first. Here's my Tuskboss coming in, doing its Tusk Helm stuff. Hopefully, with the charge, you roll a 4 or something, and maybe you can get into the background. But that being said, you still can send 4 things reliably into their face because you have the pigs move, the Tuskboss move, the fanatics move in, your big Maw-Crusher can move in with Fasten. If you're looking for, I just want to alpha strike and get this game over with as soon as possible, you have 4 significant hammers because you're not going to give the fanatics a war beat. You don't have to give your Maw-Crusher the war beat. So I would be giving a unit of 6 pigs and the Tuskboss the war beat. Here goes 4 things doing a significant amount of damage. And I was just looking like, how do I do as much damage as possible? And a lot of people worry about low drops versus high drops. It's cool being a low drop and controlling this stuff. But before this book, every one of my games, I had 9 drops or 8 drops or 10 drops. It never mattered. Oh, you go first. Okay. I'm going to go first. Okay. Like it never mattered. And even now, there's not a significant enough stuff that alpha strikes me that I'm worried about. It's like, okay, like you want to go first? Have at it. Get your buffs off. I'm going to charge you with 4 units. And that's kind of where this list came from. And it's also trying to make the Tuskboss work. And I love 3d6 charge on a Tuskboss. You roll it, you declare the wog. You hope you roll pretty good. Here's a 14. So 15 4-ups. Okay, now let's see if I can now run past you and do it again. Even if you charge the same unit, I'm going to try to do it again. Here we go. It's just how much damage can I do in one turn? And the shooters are awesome. The reason you put the shooters in is in case someone can alpha strike you. I just bubble with my shooters. All right, come on, charge them. I drop my fanatics out wherever in front of them. You can charge my fanatics if you want. I strike first. I don't really care if you charge them.
Now that the stabbers are the same price as the shooters, I would say that I do like stabbers more because they can contest objectives within 9 as opposed to within 6. But the shooters getting like 40 shots, although they're trash shots, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s. It's pure like if you snipe a hero, it's like 5s and 5s. But like 40, like you probably maybe with 2 rounds of shooting can take down that 5 wound idiot. Which
that is a good point about the stabbers, like the 9-inch, hold objective. That's a really good point.
The amount of times I've even gone into like not ice fields. I've forgotten the battle tactic, the battle plan's name. Where if you hold it for 2 turns in a row, you lose it. So like I'll put like 1 stabber within 9 inches, let my opponent steal it off me, and then I can reclaim it and then reset that counter. And but if you lose 1 person, then you lose that rule completely. So it depends on what you're after. I have a couple of burning questions before we kind of wrap this up, if that's okay.
Yeah.
A couple of burning questions from Discord, and I appreciate everyone who kind of heaps of questions that I think we've acknowledged already. So I'm just going to get into the most critical ones. First one being from Paul S. Do you think there's a strategy for building up momentum for the big picks? It looks like it is very tough to get 6 for that.
Yes, I rebel rousers, is that what they're called? The 500 point ally or thing you can bring in. I can see a cause to put that guy all the way on the left, have nothing but, you know, pigs or whatever next to it, and you just free run. Okay, I'm going to run him. I don't care if I don't roll a 5 or a 6. I roll a 1. I still can run and charge because this guy lets me because I move closer. And then you're really heading down the field. You can do the momentum. If your plan is to do the momentum, go in and charge, it is easy to do. You just have to invest 500 points in a unit that I think is worth 500 points. To be clear, I think gaining the squigs and gaining the squig hoppers and gaining all the stuff, it's worth it. Like, okay, that's pretty cool.
So you're not talking about the ally rabble rouser. You're talking about the armies, the regiment of renown, which is which comes with the rabble rouser, the gobblepalooza, some hoppers, and some squig herd.
Yes, the whole shebang. I definitely think there's a list in there to make it happen, and that's the only way. Like, you know, watch other YouTube things, talk to my friends, talk to everyone. Can you think of another unit that lets you run and charge that allows you to just do this? And it's the only one we can think of. And while the points are steep, if you do that, you're not taking a Maw Crusher. Like, I would not recommend a Maw Crusher too. So, but you gain a lot of stuff. It's not like you're not gaining things, you know. So I can see doing that. I can see putting that in the flank and just going ham.
The Gobblepalooza gives you 2 casters as well, which is neat. And one of the casts can be a 12-inch bubble of -1 to hit, which is really helpful. And is also can't receive and issue commands until your next hero phase, which is super neat. You obviously get some squig herds, you get some chaff as well as some hoppers, which will give you some bodies. And it does bring the ability to deep strike the rabble rouser as well. So you can put it on your opponent's side of the board. And then, and that's probably one of the challenges by allying in the rabble rouser. You've got no easy way to get it on your opponent's side of the board. But if you put it in the army of renowned, the regiment of renowned, you can. So good question, because I was actually going to ask you, Slippery, to ask me, do you see any value in the Gits regiment of renown? And I think the answer is yes. Yes. But there's a trade-off that the 500 points has to come from somewhere.
Yes, and that you're building your list. And I think it would be cool to have an army that does well in competitive play without a Maw Crusher. Like, let's figure it out. Because the Maw Crusher is so cool, but it's also like, really again? Like, it would just be cool, right?
I will say to you though, one of the players at my GT ran 3 Maw Crushers.
I've seen it. It's dirty. It's
what?
Dirty.
It's like dirty. It's like Sons of Behemoth in Orcs, and I am all for that. Supreme Squid asking, are MSU or minimum size units of Maw-Gruntas, Brutes, and Ragerz viable?
I mean, everything's viable depending on what your battle plan in your mind is. Everything's viable. I've seen MSU do very well. My mindset is I'm a massive orc who's in charge, and I want to go home for supper. What's the most efficient and fast way to do that? 6 pigs, brutes, move forward, smash. Where other things are, I want this game to go to turn 5. And while I think that's awesome, against certain armies that are like heavy shooting with screens, magic casting, if you're going MSU, they're just going to ping, 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 ping. But if you can get in, smash, and keep going, I can win this game and be done with this game, you know. But MSU, like we talked about the new brutes, 1,000%. I can see 3-man darts, especially at 100 points. Especially at 100 points. Even if you did 4 sets of 3 at 400 points, and they just were running and charging down the field, people are going to be like, what do I do? And the other thing I guess we didn't touch on, I love this. 3-man brutes can get into terrain and have a 4-up save. Very easy.
Sure.
Very easy. You know, and then all of a sudden, all at defense, I got a 3. Well, I'm ignoring 1 rend very easily. So MSU is definitely a thing. I don't think MSU, in my opinion, for Gorg runners is a thing. I think you lose too much. But if you're going 2 Maw Crushers, you're going to have to go MSU pigs. Like, you can't take 6.
Yes, 6 is critical, and 3 is nice, but you don't expect them. They will soak up wounds. You're not getting a lot out of actually 3.
Yeah.
JFK Space Race kind of talking about Ragerz is, do you think it's minimum sized units for those Rangers and chucking them in your front line, or do you see them more as like reinforce them and use them as a counterpunch style unit?
Both for sure. I mean, it depends what else you have in your army and what you want that unit to do for you. If you want that unit to go in and do the Lord's work and take stuff out, obviously reinforce. If you want them to take up a flank, I'm going to, because everyone, MSU, we can talk MSU, I'm going to have this small unit grab that objective while everything else is here. Well, here comes these Ragerz. No, you're not. I'm going to go kill that small unit. And then I'm going to turn around and kill the rest of your army, right? Like, I think that unit of 3 is better than 95% of the stuff people are using to claim side objectives, like secretly. They're going to go into almost anything, kill it.
100%. Yeah. You won't claim the objective off bodies, but sure as hell you will rip them a new butthole by like three models will delete and dominate that objective through sheer force, especially if they're doing the mortal wounds. Or maybe you don't need them. You're just like, whatever. Second last question is Kaluha's asking, with or without point alignment, do you ever take Wrekkaz over Ragerz? I think we've already acknowledged that when we talked about the 2 war scrolls, but just to reinforce, we ever taking them over Ragerz?
No, honestly, no. Like no. And if I'm also being honest, they're the least attractive of all the models they put out. They're not cute.
I like the mask. The mask is fun.
I like the masks.
The masks are fun, but it's hard to argue in favor of the Wrekkaz over the Ragerz right now.
I'm surprised they're more points than the other one. That's what
I was gonna say, if the Ragerz go to like 150 or they became like 130 and then the Wrekkaz were like 90, maybe we're talking. Maybe. But like right now, it's Ragerz every day of the week.
Yeah, Ragerz, and they're They both have good rules. They do have good rules. It's just you
can't have everything. You can't have everything, and it's not that we don't like them. It's just that other things are better for my points choice. But second last question, and then we'll wrap it up, and you can do some shout outs. Byron asking probably the most important question is how much bacon is enough bacon, and I think the answer is 2,000 points worth of bacon.
2,000 points. 21 pigs is fun. You can go more than that. You can go 24 pigs. I mean, with you take out your magic, you ignore it, and you go, I want to lean heavy into pigs. I mean, I can easily see a 21 pig army with 3 war chanters behind it, and you're just, here we go. But you can never have enough bacon. It just won't happen. It just won't happen.
Scooter, as always, you are an incredible guest, and I'm pretty sure I'll have to talk to a few more of the bottom table bullies because not only are you, it's ironic because you're actually a top table champion. So I hope through this almost 3 hours of solid goodness, you are all getting a feel of not only the new rules in the Dawnbringers book. If you want to buy these, by the way, the book or the models, I do have an affiliate link down below, but you probably already bought it by now. Let's be honest. If you're going to buy the pigs, you've already bought it. If you're a laggard and we've got you excited, feel free to help out the channel. Links are in the episode description. But this has been a really insightful conversation because Ironjawz as a faction has been this middle of the pack. Didn't want to forget them. Where are they at? They bring a lot of things to the table. They are still definitely viable. And I hope through this discussion, whether you are a pig lover, someone who loves their Ardboys and are now interested in the new Ardboys, whether you're looking at the Wrekkaz or the Ragerz, you're thinking about how to use the Army of Renown, you've got a few new ideas to kind of list and kind of put this all together. A warning that we didn't put at the top of the channel, though, is this is pre-FAQ. So everything we've discussed is prior to an errata. So things may change, points may change, a rule might get clarified that may contradict what we've now said, but we've done our best with what we know so far. But Scooter, anyone you want to shout out, anyone you want to say hello to, and where can you're not on the internet really at all. So
no, I'm busy and I'm busy. I'm very
If you're,
busy. I do a lot of
if
stuff.
you're at events, go see Scooter. You'll clearly hear him from a mile away. Go say hello. But give me some shout outs.
Big shouts, honestly, to you. You are a marvel inside the community. We need more people. Well, we have a lot of people, but we need more people like you who are friendly, want to have the conversation. Tough crowd. I ain't gonna lie, I shout out my people. I love my tough crowd. Wicked Dicey. Love you guys. Bottom table bullies. We're here to stay. It's a very fun community, and I want more jovialness and more happiness and more just community. I mean, everyone is so pleasant. I'm really excited for Worlds coming up. I hear there's a lot of international people coming in. It is so cool to me to like, we are not like Chasm. I play in America, and then you find out, wait, they play this game in Japan. Okay, hell yeah. So I can't wait to meet all of you. If you ever see me and you want to say hi, if you want to tell me I'm an idiot, I'm wrong about, tell me, because I love the conversation. It's my favorite part of the game is the theory hammer and the, let me tell you about this time. All right, tell me what you did. I'll tell you one of mine. Like, I love you all, and I really appreciate this opportunity and the chance to talk to everyone. You know, everyone just be kind to each other. I love you all.
You are truly one of East Coast finest, and I can't wait for a chance to come and play over on your side, whether it's Everwinter or Du Bois, or there's a couple of events. It's just a shame it's like 22-hour flight to get over there, so it makes it a little hard. But I will be in Atlanta, and anyone who's in Atlanta for the World Finals, come say hello. Maybe more announcement will come out later on what I'm doing there, but it should be exciting. I'm looking forward to that in November.
He's crushing souls. That's what he's doing there. Don't be fooled, people. He's there to bring the pain.
Maybe just make sure that you're playing with intent and your dice rolls are clear and there's no cheating. Yes. Otherwise, there will be some smackdown being laid.
And there should be. I have a question for you.
Oh no, go for it.
Okay, I don't know if you ever played Magic the Gathering, but yes. I've asked people this a lot. In Magic, if I'm at the table next to you watching you play and I notice you did something that's wrong or you got a rule wrong, I have to correct you. If I don't and the judges find out I didn't say something, I get in trouble. Do you think it would hurt the game if we implemented something like that, where if I'm playing at the table next to someone, I notice, you know, they're rolling too many dice or they don't hit on what they said they hit on or something like that, should I be obligated to say something to them? Or is it one of those, well, he should know what that army does?
Yeah, you've asked a really interesting question. As someone who is a reflective thinker, first and foremost, I think it's a great question, right? Because you also have the culture of chess clocks where people are playing against time, and does that eat into chess clock time and how the penalties play out with time going over? If you see a rule and it's a blatant cheat, I think you should.
Okay.
But at the same time, like if that person's wrong, they've disrupted the game. You obviously see games where people are interjecting, and it's more like a coach rather than a judge, which is clearly wrong. I think it's like a defined parameter. I think if we're going to do that and be disruptive, there needs to be rules and systems in place to allow that. So, because sometimes you're in the moment and you pick up the wrong dice, you forget to apply a modifier, stuff happens. So sometimes it's really tough to play in a very fast pace, you know, not looking at your rules. And, you know, like I like to believe that people play unintentional, like no one really intends to cheat.
Yeah.
I don't think I think most people don't have the intention, but they do slip up. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying I like to have intention and people's best intentions at heart. But I think there's definitely space for that. I think there's definitely space, but I wouldn't want to encourage people hanging at a table, interrupting, saying this, saying that, what's going on there. Hey, that was cocked. And like,
that's my hard part is what happens when people decide to sit at a table. It's like, you're making this awkward, bro.
Because there's also like the first 5 minutes we used to have, you know, when we chat and we talk lists. Often there's an etiquette conversation, like, you know, how do we rule it if this happens here, or, you know, sometimes, you know, yes, we only roll in a dice box, or if it's cocked, what do we roll it against, or is there take backs? And if you weren't there for the full game, you may have missed the etiquette, and that might again be disruptive in the moment. So
it's hard. It's just a really fun, hard question. But
well, I'm glad you asked, and maybe everyone who listens will might put their 2 cents into the chat and let me know, because it's interesting, right? Like, do you call it out because you know the army? And I think a lot of people just don't know other people's armies, which then makes it.
That's the hard part, because it's an open source game and I don't know all your rules. So I'm trusting you to know what you do. Yeah.
It's and we're getting into that for Warhammer Fantasy Days, where like the top tables, really you need to know what people do and knowing the nuance, and you'd study people's books and their armies, and that also why practice is valuable. But Scooter, we are going to talk more about this in Atlanta in a couple of weeks' time. I cannot wait to see you. Chat, people who watched, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I hope you took a lot of value out of Scooter's 3 hours of orky goodness. I'm not going to make you laugh because it's like late at night for you, but I hope you all enjoyed it, and you all know what to do at this point. Press like, leave a comment. Thank you all to the patrons who support the channel, and thank you to my guests, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
I'll see you in a little bit of time. Thank you.
Hey, buddy. Bye.
Peace.
Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AOS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double one on a spellcast.